Okay, we are live and on the air, and today I have a special guest. It's Men Are Good, and you might know him as Tom Golden, and we'll be talking about traversing the inner terrain of the male brain. I think it's important to remember that none of us are without an emotional backlog. When we are facing an angry person, we usually get immediately triggered or something on that level. From the unhealthy unconscious, it triggers something from within us. This is a two-way street. We tell ourselves as we deal with this anger and rage that it might be wrong, it may not be wrong. Our history and our pain, there is no rules. There is no right way or wrong way to deal with this. It's simply a choice to heal or a choice to confront these issues. And let's talk about that a little bit today, man. Hey, Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
Oops. I got to close this out. Oh, it's good to hear from you. Messenger's probably going to join us in a little while. I sent a few invites out. I should probably send a few invites to the regular crew that show up here that everybody kind of expects. So today we're going to be talking about healing, and we did a little bit right before this. We were talking about what's healthy for men to do without women around, and just because we are different, aren't we? We're just a little bit different.
We're indeed different.
Yeah, we do different things, and women don't understand them. And we were talking about fishing. Fishing is one of those good things. Hunting, getting out in the woods, being with other men's, and things like this. Just talking. These group hangouts are just a really good way to open up and share some of your life experiences with other men.
Indeed. Yeah, the fishing thing is interesting. The men can spend all day in a fishing boat with each other, and they walk away feeling more healed. And the women scratch their head and say, "What?
Yeah, what was that about?"
And it's because the men are together, and they are literally processing their loss in their own minds, or they're fishing, back and forth. They don't talk about it, but they sit there and process. And just having the other man there, being his buddy in the boat, is a beautiful thing, and it helps that potentiate that healing. So when they walk away after fishing for a day, they feel better.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Feeling better, feeling good about being a man.
Exactly. It's all about feeling better, is exactly right. Because the whole divorce and separation thing has got so many pitfalls and so many places where there's losses that are just tremendous amounts of pain. Being separated from your kids. I mean, what more pain could you get?
Yeah, that is painful. That's a pain that doesn't go away either.
It does not go away.
We see this in Mgtow as red pill rage, anger, men lashing out. But unless you've ever been through that pain, it's hard to put that concept in our minds. When you look around your house after that's done, your kids still aren't there, and you miss them.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a loss. It's a loss, just like any other death,
Yeah, it is a loss. We talk about what's that? I can't remember the 4 steps of that.
Oh, you're talking about the 5 stages of grieving?
Yeah, 5 stages. We hear a lot of that online.
Well, actually, that's not true. There's no 5 stages in grief. The original Kubler-Ross book was the 5 stages of dying.
The 5 stages of dying.
Denial and bargaining and this and that and acceptance. And that was all about someone dying, not about grieving. But somehow people kind of applied the two to grieving, and it's not really a very good application, because you can go through those, what they call 5 stages. You can go through all of them in the same day. You can be furious, you can deny what's happening, you can accept things all in the same day. So it's not a matter of stages; it's a matter of just what happens.
Right, that's interesting. I always felt that way, that it was applied kind of carelessly to to Mgtow, and it's a good model, and we have a lot of models to work with, but men's rights and men's issues is kind of a new thing when it comes to psychiatry, isn't it?
New thing? It's a no thing.
It's a no thing,
Yeah,
yes.
really. I mean, most therapists don't have a clue about men. And men's rights is a bad word, you know, in psychiatry. At least that's been my perspective. You know, it's just the therapeutic industry is not male friendly.
No, it isn't. Yeah, we see a lot of
No, it's not. You know, you go to a therapist for couples therapy with your wife, and what's going to happen? You know, the therapist is going to talk about your wife, oh, her needs and what she needs and what you're not doing. You know, that's almost always that's the focus is what she needs and what upset her and what you're not doing to help her out. It's almost never the reverse, where what he needs and what she needs to do to help him out. So, you know, the whole mental health system is misandric. I mean, it's built for women. It's built for women. It's, you know, I was taught to do that in grad school in the 70s. You know, you're taught to sit and talk about things and to face each other and to, you know, remember the past and emote openly. And all these things work really well with women, but they do not work very well with men.
They do not work well.
They
Yeah,
suck pretty well.
So that emoting openly thing too, like we were talking about, two men sitting in a fishing boat, just kind of looking at each other all day long is what we do. We don't really do this, and we get a thing, you know, we connect differently than women do,
and those two guys are not really looking at each other. I mean, they're either shoulder to shoulder or they're back to back, you know, which is another thing that confounds women. So here I was taught to have eye contact with people, right? So I have this caseload of a lot of men. This is in the 1970s. And so I start making eye contact with these guys, and it wasn't helping. It was like, it looked like it was making them more nervous, and it took me years to figure out why. And the reason is that eye contact for men with another man doesn't mean closeness and intimacy. It means conflict. It means put them up. You know, hockey has a face-off. Boxers face each other. You face the competition. You know, it's not a matter of this is the way to get close. Guys don't get close by making eye contact. They get close by being shoulder to shoulder.
Right. It's a tournament system. We hear a lot about the Evo sciences and Mgtow and how we're just kind of touching on the top of them things. And but we do know with men, it's sizing up. It's a tournament system. And when you look a man in the eye, he's expecting something, isn't he?
Yes. Yes. He's expecting confrontation of some sort.
Yeah. He's sizing up.
Yes. Yes.
That's what we do naturally.
Exactly. But the mental health system is not built for that.
No, they don't. I did do a little marriage counseling before my divorce, and they took us in separately at first. Yeah. And then it was nicer that way. It was a little bit better because and that's kind of the process there. They take you in separately. So the therapist knows what you want to say. But even in those meetings, when the two people were sitting there together, me and my wife, it generally went gynocentric. Yep. What can you do? What utility could I provide? What could I do better? It was always about, you know, could I not use those little soaps on the you know, the little pretty soaps, not put water in them and stuff like that. You know, it's so silly.
Yep. And don't yell.
And don't yell.
Oh man, I'm telling you, how many times I've heard that from people. You know, the women will say, "He yells at me. He yells at me," and the therapist goes, "Oh my God, he yells." And the guy says, "Wait a minute, I'm not yelling. I'm just talking."
I'm not yelling. I'm just talking.
Yeah, because he's got a different volume. If he were to talk like that to me, it wouldn't bother me at all. He was talking. But when he talks to her like that, she interprets it as yelling. And so, you know, he gets into this thing where he's got to not yell. It's just one more piece of the mess of the couples therapy system. I wrote a series of articles on couples therapy in men and how men can survive in couples therapy, you know, and all the pitfalls that are usually there. It's on the Men Are Good site. So if people wanted to see that, they might want to have a look at it.
Yeah, we could put a link up there for them if they want to share that amongst themselves. If some men are going, what do you think of the thing in Mgtow now with the no dating and the we're not going to have no problems if we just stay away from women, and that's the cure. And you do couples therapy, and I mean, you got to deal with this all the time. So you're kind of looking at it from a different angle here, being a men's right activist. And are you a Mgtow?
I consider myself a Mgtow,
Okay.
but some people don't because I'm married.
Okay, yeah, we often see. I see this with the sane madman. You're awake and why married? You're still awake, you know.
Yeah. Well, actually, my wife is Mgtow.
Is she Mgtow? That's great.
She and I have both gone our own way for the 35 years we've been together, and we've done things differently for our entire marriage. So it's a little different from most people, but I think from my perspective, Mgtow is a frame of mind.
Yeah.
Frame of going your own way and not basing things off the culture at large. But everybody else has got a different definition, and I don't it doesn't matter one way or the other.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That's what gets us in this argument.
Yes.
Yes. The aggression, and men are like, we get back to the subject here. The men are naturally aggressive. There's things we do. We tournament. We compete. We're naturally, some of us are more aggressive than others. More testosterone or whatever we have, more of. We like that. Some of us like that, but some of us are less aggressive, more passive, and that's when problems come in here.
Yes, the whole rage anger thing is important for men because it's oftentimes their pathway to get in. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
A friend of mine did an international workshop a bunch of years ago, and he had all these people from around the world, and one of the guys there was from South America. And it turns out at the end of the week, when the workshop was finishing up, my friend got a call from South America saying the man's brother had died. So my friend had to tell the guy that his brother had died. So he goes and tells him, and the guy says to him, he says, "I want you to get some cloth and 7 men and meet me in the parking lot." My friend said, "Okay," and he did. He got some cloth and he got 7 guys, and they went out in the parking lot. And the guy instructed them what to do. He said, "Okay, I want you to hold me here. I want you to hold me here." And he had 7 guys holding him back from his legs and his arms and his torso. He took the cloth and put it in his mouth and bit down on it. And he proceeded to struggle. And he screamed and he struggled and he struggled and he screamed. And my friend was thinking, "Holy shit, what have I gotten into?" But after about 3 minutes of this, the guy falls down on the asphalt in tears. So, I mean, the guy was just a genius as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure it was South American in some way, but the guy was a genius because what he did was he used this anger, this fury, this rage as a means to connect in with that pain. And it was through that anger and rage that he was able to move into that place where he felt this pain in a very profound way. And I've found men are like that a lot. Although most of us as men don't have 7 men to hold us down. You go to a female therapist, she's not going to hold you down. She's not, and you can feel that. You can sense it as a man. You can feel that she doesn't have the strength to deal with you, So you tamp it down. You try not to be angry. So, that's where groups of men can be really helpful to each other. When they can hold the space for that other man who's really fucking angry. Because your anger for a man oftentimes is your path in to your pain.
Yeah, it gives you a view of just how angry you are. It helps in a lot of ways to it just gives you a view of it, and you can see yourself in that, can't you?
Yeah, well, I think it's more than a view. It opens it up.
It opens it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there. Women open it up by talking. They can talk about it and then cry and talk about it and then cry. But men open it up by doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, we get we're athletic by nature. Most of us are the punching bag. I used to use the punching bag. I kept this when I was going through my rage after my divorce and all those things, where there's many things that go through your mind at that point. I used to keep this big metal bar everywhere I went and just kind of do curls. And
Yep,
every time I felt it coming on, I was just, "Arr."
exactly. Yes. And after you did the curls, after you exhausted, what did you feel?
I felt well, the immediate release of those chemicals in my brain, which helped.
Yeah.
And I felt all that stress go away.
Yeah. And I would bet that you felt some of that sadness.
Yeah. There was a moment there where just kind of you're defeated. You're at that moment where you're done and your body hurts.
Yes.
You just kind of put your head down, and then there's a real clear period of thought there.
Yes, exactly. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, that you can
That's what we're looking for, because you string those together and you start to feel better,
Yeah. And your choices have a lot to do with it at that point, and the decisions you make and how healthy you are. And that helps. At that moment, you can get a clarity where, oh, what do I need to do here now? Because men delay things. They don't do things that they're supposed to do. We work all the time. We get into these things we do, and it becomes our rituals. I go to work, I come home, I eat my dinner, I watch Star Trek, then I go to sleep.
Yes.
It kind of gets us out of for a few moments to do some soul searching. We hear that word all the time around here, and it's so important. What do you think about just sitting down with yourself? No TV, no nothing, no internet. Stare at a wall or do what you want, and do some inner soul searching of yourself.
Absolutely. That's one of the most important things for men, is to spend at least 20 minutes a day of just quiet time where you turn off everything and you just go inside and smile at it.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, you slowly start to access a part of you that heals you up. At first it can be a little bit intimidating and frightening, but after a while, it's really, really helpful. But just take that 20 minutes to turn off and just go inside, smile at yourself, and see whatever you're seeing, smile at it. There it is. You don't have to get attached to it. You don't have to change it. You don't have to do anything. Just smile at it and say, here I am looking at this right now. And you can facilitate that by breathing in a different way. There's a lot about the breath that people don't know, but almost all emotions are connected to the way we breathe. When we're afraid, we breathe in a certain way.
Yeah.
When we're angry, we breathe in a certain way. We hold the breath. And so oftentimes the way we feel is connected with the way we breathe. And so what we've found now is that by slowing that breath down, to about 3 a minute or less, you leave that whole world of crap behind and you start letting yourself heal up in a different kind of way.
Oh yeah. I did an interesting it was through Health and Human Services. I had a friend that worked in it, and she did therapy. It was kind of that new age therapy, but she had a doctor friend that ran a system out here, and he was doing photography therapy. And what you did is you come in, and there was a bunch of men, and we were all angry. We were all these guys that had to get used to our new lives. So what they did is they gave us these cameras, these little the old-fashioned camera. It's $9 at the store.
Yeah.
And they said, go out and take some pictures today. Go out and walk around the park. It was a rather big park. And we walked around, go get something for lunch, take some pictures of what you see. And so we all did that. They processed the pictures. Then for the next 4 days of this thing, we did meditation, I'm a mountain thing, sort of, talking through, and with the light music, we talked, and we did, it was a retreat. So we walked around, we talked to the counselors. We did a lot of meditation, a lot of thinking, and breathing was in that. We learned how to breathe. And there was this fish clenching thing where we bring the tension to your fist and then release it.
Yeah, good.
We did some of that, and there was just a ton of stuff. And then at the last day, we got cameras again.
Huh.
So you can look, you're looking through a view, how you're looking at the world now. And we took pictures again. So about 2 days after that, they called us all back so we can look at the pictures of how we were looking at the world that first day. And after all the meditation and the peace and relaxation and being out in the woods as men and just kind of mingling with each other. And then we looked at the pictures on the last day and how different they were.
Interesting. How were they different?
Just the way, the beauty that we seen. I like to say it was the eye, the beauty that we were picking up with. There was some of the pictures of my pictures at first. I took a picture of some ugly stuff, some things that were, some buildings. I didn't really look around. I was kind of not focused. I was looking at things very, very, very angrily. And then as that process went out, I started noticing, there's some trees here, and oh, look at that. There's some flowers over there, and the stream's great. And I got my boots and I walked down the stream, and I was out there just more refreshed, happy, and it reflected in the pictures I took in an artful way.
Yes.
And that was a very good course. I do that now with myself. I like to go out in the woods. I told you that before. I do this a lot. I have a large park at the bottom of my street now, so I can do this and
nice.
Take my camera and I can take pictures, see where I'm at, do some meditation, some stuff like that. And then after, I'll take a look at them both and kind of see where I'm at, an introspection of my soul.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good courses. Well, not courses. And we learned a little about photography in there too. They did they showed us a little bit about how to take pictures and stuff like that, and how to adjust cameras. So it was a really great course. And to get back into, just working through it, the important part. Now, this is important. When I tell my story is kind of, I won't go over it or anything. It's sort of traumatic and everything. But the original group I was in had quite a few men. And over the years, it was probably 15 years ago, I could see a real difference. And the men that were willing to work on themselves, they came out of the thing fine. But there was men that just gave up and they didn't work on themselves, and they committed suicide.
Yeah.
They, or did something stupid, ended up in jail or prison for the rest of their lives. So I always equated that to what was inside of you, but I might be wrong. The tenaciousness, the recover, each man's different in his own ways. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think you're right about that. That, part of it's how tenacious we are and how persistent we are. But I think another variable is what's available. For some people, there's nothing available that's going to help them. And there's no one telling them how to breathe. There's no one telling them go fishing. And, so it makes a difference what's available to your environment, what's around you. And that's why, in my mind, it's so critical that men today join together. Get Mgtows getting together and doing stuff shoulder to shoulder, going out hunting, going out fishing, doing this and doing that. And if you can't do that, then damn well start a weekly hangout with some friends,
Yeah.
And you don't have to sit and talk about your feelings. You check in for the week. Here's what happened this week. This sucked. This was good. And this sucked. Then the next guy, and it's real simple, but having that connection with other men is really, really healing.
Yeah, there were no real programs. I'm one of the fortunate ones. When I went through my issues, there was a group here. It was a private company that kind of got us all together and financed the thing. But that is so rare in this atmosphere. We got 2.2, and I don't want to go into politics, but we got
2.2 what?
$trillion in health and human services to run that program. And how many programs are for men?
Yeah, really. Isn't that the truth? Truth.
I looked online and I found an interesting stat that there was 44,000 gynocentric programs.
Yeah. All right. The whole thing's gynocentric, everything from top to bottom, whether it's the mental health system or the even the banking system, who knows how they're gynocentric.
Yeah.
It's in the water, man, and no one even knows it.
Yeah, it's in the water. That's the problem. And
yes. And it's definitely in the family court system.
Oh God, the family court system. We don't even want to start on that.
Really? Oh God, I've never seen such misandry and such white knights.
White knighting, yeah, that's the problem. We attack white knights and we attack simps around here for good reason.
Really? Really? They're completely asleep.
They're completely asleep, and they filter themselves totally. All their validation comes from the female, and we know these things. We talk about them all the time in here, but they don't know it.
They don't know. They're completely unconscious, and it's the weirdest thing, man. It's really bizarre. It's like a zombie movie. It's like going to the damn The Walking Dead kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like you see all these people around you that they're just completely dead. They don't get it. They don't understand that men are human beings. They don't understand that men have emotional pain. In fact, in our culture, men's emotional pain is taboo.
It's taboo, right? Yeah.
You can't touch it. Let me tell you a story about taboo. I want you to imagine you're walking into a restaurant.
Okay.
And as you walk in, it's your favorite restaurant. As you walk in, you look over at the corner table as you're being seated, and there's this woman who's sitting there crying. What's the first thing you think of when you see her?
Comfort her.
Yeah. Poor dear, right?
Yeah.
She's upset. She needs assistance. I do this in the workshops I give all over the country, and I've asked thousands of therapists the same question. They all say the same thing. Poor dear, she's upset. Someone needs to help her. She probably had such and such a loss. Okay, now erase that idea, and I want you to go back to the same restaurant. You're being seated, but there's a man over at that corner table who's crying. What's the first thing that goes through your mind? You think of when you see her?
You see a man in the room?
Yes, it's the man who's at the corner table crying.
Oh,
What's the first thing that goes through your mind?
Shame. I feel ashamed for myself for him, and I feel what a wimp.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, all the therapists say the same thing. They say, something wrong with that guy. Avoid him. Step around him. Maybe he's drunk. And you see what we're getting at here? I mean, this is the general taboo. It's like a woman's pain is a call to action, and a man's pain is taboo. Don't touch that shit. And so men pick this up automatically. Men pick up that no one wants to hear their crap, and so they don't say much in public, Then they get shamed for not talking about their feelings. And the whole thing is like a double bind. I mean, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. These judges don't have any concept of the pain that these men are in, nor do they have really a concept of much pain that the kids are in.
Right.
They just go straight ahead and straight up.
It's a catch-22 for men, isn't it? Either you tuck all that in and that builds up, and you're not allowed to display it in any way because that's considered feminine.
Right.
And we hear that often. Here's the here.
Yes. And if you display anything, then there's something wrong with you. You're not a real man.
Yeah, you're not the man up thing. Oh God, I went about 3 of those programs, and every time it came to the man up thing, I felt so insulted. I felt so insulted. How much more of a man can I be? What
really?
Do
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. Messenger's in the room. I don't know if his volume's on yet.
There he is.
Man, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you good. You just talk a little, and I'll adjust your volume.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm late. I just had some family business to deal with, so just had a bombshell dropped on me. So I'll listen for a bit, and then I'll join the conversation.
What's the bombshell, boss? What happened?
Uh, Probably best for a private conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I shouldn't have asked. That's all right.
No, no, it's what you know. I'm more than willing to talk about most things, and
Yeah. No, I
I,
trust you.
I honestly thought I'd sort of overcome the past, but the past has come back to haunt
Yes.
the whole family. It's still sinking in actually, and I'm maybe it's a good topic for conversation. I'm sort of aware of the fact that when you have something happen, you go through. Um, some people believe you go through certain stages. I'm not sure if you believe this, Tom, but at the moment I'm just aware of the fact that I don't want to not deal with it.
Yeah.
It's quite a serious issue. Um, and what I don't want to do either is become extremely angry because it's to do with one of my brothers.
Oh.
So it's quite close to home.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to be doing a lot of reading and a lot of listening, and I'm probably in the best environment to deal with this issue, among other things.
Well, my heart is with you, boss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
we're
yeah,
all.
do what feels right to you. That's the best thing.
yeah. So what was the conversation before I
Oh,
turned up?
we've gone all over the place. We've had a good time talking about men and healing and misandry and family courts and gynocentrism. We're having a good time.
I got to the point actually. I felt like I'd reached a point um, of acceptance. Um, that I had to accept that everything that had happened in the past has been and gone, and that is just the way it is. And no matter how I wanted that to be different, or how I tried to imagine that it could have been different if I'd have done something, those things didn't happen, and that's just my reality now. I've got to live with that. And I can't let that define me as a person now. I can't be the person who walks around saying, I was the man who went to family court, I was the man, or I am the man who doesn't see my child all the time. That's just the way it is. And I don't want to be remembered as the person who only ever spoke about that. I want to be the person who moved on past that point and dealt with it, and then redefined himself as a man who achieved certain things. You know, that's what I saw. A lot of men who were stuck in this place, and I didn't know whether it was, and I was one of them, I didn't know whether it was that they'd attached that to their identity and they didn't want to let go of it, and all I saw was them sort of repeating the cycle of this happened to me, this happened to me, and in the end I thought, okay, we've established that. What's next? Because before you know it, time will run out, and you'll still be saying, "This happened to me," you know. And maybe there's another stage after this where you reinvent yourself, and like, yeah, I know it's an old cliche, but you rise from the ashes, and you
Yes.
make a new life for yourself, one that you can really be proud of, and one that people will say, "Wow, that guy survived, and now look at him, he's flourished." So. I wanted to know your thoughts on that, Tom, because I watched a lot of your videos all week, and I went to that Kubler-Ross model and looked at the 5 stages, and then I saw your video that said people believe in stages, and um, it's possibly not the case.
Yes.
And I did read that as sort of malleable. You can sort of say, okay, people won't go necessarily through all 5 stages. They may go straight to acceptance. They may just be angry, perpetually angry, or they may experience those stages in different orders. And everybody's experience with grief and healing is different. But I wanted your take on it, because you know more than most, and we're just sort of fumbling around in the dark looking for answers, really.
Well, I think we're all fumbling around in the dark, but my perception of the dark is that there's not really stages in grief. There's really just experiences, and sometimes you can have all of what some people call stages in the same hour. And it's not a matter of stage. A stage implies that there's something first and then second and third and fourth and fifth. That's just not the way it works, man. I mean, sometimes we will be in denial and then have all this pain, and then be in denial again, and then be angry, and it's just not that neat a pattern. It's just not. It's messy. It's real messy, and it lasts a long time. For the men out there who are in the midst of saying, this is what happened to me, this is what happened to me, this is what happened to me. Sometimes you've got to do that for a while before it starts to sink in. And sometimes it's not days, it's not months. I mean, sometimes it takes a long time for you to. I mean, my God, when your children get taken away from you, when your wife screws you in the court, when you're paying for something that you don't want to have to pay for, all of these things pile up. I mean, that's just too much to believe. It's hard to take in. It's like unbelievable. And so you're going to have to spend some time going, this is what happened to me. This is what happened to me. Because that very thing of saying that over and over again is the thing that pulls you out of it. It's what moves you out. And to go to a man who's saying, this is what happened to me, this is what happened, and say, you need to stop saying that, is bullshit. You need to love him for who he is. You need to understand that what he's doing is he's trying to help himself get out of this mess. And he's in chaos right now. And what he needs is a hand on his shoulder.
We've sort of looked at, I've looked at, it's very difficult to gauge a man what stage he's at. And if you do, like you say, if you do say, okay, well, you need to accept it and move on, he might not be ready yet.
Right.
Part of that reaffirming process is to keep repeating your story so that you can sort of come to terms with it.
Exactly.
And if they still have to say it another 100 times, then let them say it another 100 times. And I did feel, I sort of said to people, at some point you've got to say, this is the way it is, before you can move on. And a couple of people resisted and thought, I'm not comfortable with that yet.
Right.
And I could feel them resisting, and I thought, okay, the best thing for you to do is just bear it in mind. And just remember that at some point, unless you want this to be who you are and this to be your life story, then at some point, maybe not now, but at some point you're going to have to go, life is tough, it wasn't fair, but I've got to lay this to rest now. I can't carry this big black cloud with me all of my life, and it's just not good for them. I just want people to live and not let what happened in the past define who they are. It's very difficult.
Well, unfortunately, the past does define partly who we are. I mean, and it's a matter of letting that sink in and kind of accepting it as it is, and then moving on as being the person who experienced that mess, And that's the whole process of healing, really, is just telling that story of, God, the Army now has decided in all of their wisdom, and I'll be damned, they're getting close to being wise, because they're talking about PTSD from Iraq and Afghanistan or whatever, and they're saying now that healing PTSD mandates that the person tell the story of what happened to them, and I think they said it 600 and some times. They've even got it down to a number where they say you've got to say this over and over, and that's exactly the truth. I mean, people who have had trauma, and that includes Mgtows who have been screwed in family courts, people who have had trauma need to tell that story over and over and over again, and it's through that retelling that people start to feel better. But you got to retell it. And that's why it's good for groups of men to get together and listen to each other's story, Be there shoulder to shoulder. You don't have to go, oh, you poor thing. You just say, yep, that shit happened to me too. And put your hand on his shoulder and then go fish.
Yeah.
Being sympathetic too, just because we get through something doesn't mean that other guy, sometimes we only look at ourselves.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's at that point where but he may just need your hand on your shoulder, you to listen, and and be there and be sympathetic. It's one of the points we brought up earlier. Some guys haven't gone through that in Mgtow, and we have this 2 groups or 3 groups. I don't know how many groups there are now. Of Mgtow's, the new Mgtow, the new young Mgtow that's never going to experience that pain. And then we have the older guys that kind of got caught on this bubble when it busted, like us. And we know about what it's all about, and we're saying, hey, I got a story for you. I got a story for you. And that's when we start telling our story over and over and over again. And at a certain point, we do get through it, but we still have to watch and be careful.
And everybody's got a very different time framework. You know, some people can heal fairly quickly and others cannot. And a part of what slows things down is if you had a childhood where things were difficult.
Oh, yes.
You know, because what happens is when we get into a family court system where we get torn away from our family, that not only is a trauma, but for these guys who have had difficult childhoods, that brings up all the old crap from growing up. And so they're not only healing what happened in the family courts, they're healing what happened when they were little. And so sometimes it takes longer, but the good news, guys, is it can happen that you're going to feel better. Keep at it. Keep telling that story. Keep fishing. Keep going out hunting together. Go shoot some hoops. Do things together, shoulder to shoulder. Put your hand on that man and say, I love you just the way you are, buddy. And that, my friends, is healing.
We did worry about we worried about the gaslighting, didn't we, Joe?
Yes.
Where the man just wanted his experience validated, and people were just basically saying, have you thought that maybe, you know, you made the choice and in some way you're to blame? and the guy wasn't aware. You know, he may have been with the same partner for years, or he may have been with someone with a personality disorder who gaslit him,
right,
and convinced him, you know, that you know, maybe he would doubt his own memory of what happened, and he got to the point where the woman was manipulating the man to such a point where he just didn't even know who he was anymore. Yes. He comes out of the relationship needing validation that he wasn't to blame, he had been abused, he had been taken advantage of and manipulated, and then he comes into an environment of people who are saying, you know, you had the choice, you know, you know, you need to take responsibility.
Yes.
And it's invalidating what he's saying, and then I worried that he would just go away and say, okay, you're doing exactly the same thing to me that she did, telling me that it's my fault.
Yes.
You know, you're gaslighting me again. I've come here for the same treatment, so I did worry, and I did make a point of just speaking out and saying to people, you know, tread carefully around these damaged men because they have been abused. It's not a case that they just need to be made aware to keep them out of harm's way in the future. They've been through the things that you're scared of, and they've got reason to never go back. And a lot of us, me included, I will never have a relationship again, simply because of my age. I haven't got enough time, enough years in my life left to pick up the pieces from another one. I'm still picking up the pieces from the last one. So yeah, we've been burned. We're not going to put our hand on the stove again. And there are a lot of people in Mgtow saying, you've got choices, now you're equipped, now you know the dangers. It's almost like they feel like they're bulletproof. And I think, now you know the dangers. For me, that's more reason not to go and do it again.
Yes. Because
when it happened to me, like a decade ago, women were nowhere near as volatile and entitled as they are now. Now I'm petrified.
Yes.
I've had a look around now and I think, Jesus, this is 10 times worse than it was when I got burned. And
it's
I see
crazy out there.
Yeah. Within 10 minutes of speaking to a woman, I think you're showing clear signs of a personality disorder. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm hypervigilant, but I'm, you know, I'm petrified of it. I wouldn't go through what I've been through again, and I just think some people have still got one foot pointed back towards the plantation where they think there's a chance that they could make it work, and I just worry. I worry that you know, they might get burned. I
Yes,
don't.
I hear you.
Yeah, that's an important, that's an important uh, thought there. There's two
The
different kinds.
saying what that lit the spark for me was, I've heard it said more than once, I'll believe it when I see it. And I think we've just told you, and there's enough proof out there for you to see. Why do you have to go and experience it for yourself? Surely that defeats the whole point of being a Mgtow.
Yes, it does.
Just stay out of
Yeah.
harm's way.
Sadly,
Yeah.
there's a biological imperative that's driven into men of seeking women, and so it's pretty tough. Even if your consciousness is raised up to a point where you know that it's dangerous, there's still a part of you that's being pulled in that direction. And this is where groups of men can be helpful. Just to give your buddy some feedback. Let them know you're with them, but let them know it's dangerous out there.
Yeah, that bridge to nowhere sometimes, well, I see for a lot of men end up in the same place again and again and again,
Yeah.
three times sometimes, trying to, in that bridge, I call it a bridge to nowhere after you've gone through it and you're supposed to start fighting and just reasserting yourself back into the society and doing what you're supposed to do. And then you find out, oh, there really is. And I think that's what Messenger was getting at before. It never ends. And there's no
Yeah.
fourth cure here. What is that fourth cure?
Well, I worried that they sort of the guilt they were experiencing made them feel that they were so much of a failure that they had to try and prove it by trying again, a second or a third time,
Yeah,
and they're just going through the meat grinder repeatedly.
Yeah.
I just wondered, if they don't find Mgtow or they're not privy to the information, are men just going to keep repeatedly throwing themselves off a cliff like lemmings um, until, well, until their life falls apart completely, until they end up on the streets, or until they, kill themselves? Where does it end?
yeah. With that awakening, it should end. I was thinking about the rage, and there's a difference between rage and being a man and fighting against something. Uh, I think at a certain point you find yourself you're validated in these programs, MRA, the MRM, MGTOW. You get validated, and you have somewhere to funnel your little bit of anger there, because that little bit of anger is always there. Now you have something to funnel it into. You can fight, but it often is mistaken for rage, depending on the aggressiveness of the male. Some of us males are really aggressive. The character I portray as Traversable Mgtow is a little more aggressive because I want to reach that man that's at that point. It may not be the man I am, out here in society. I'm actually kind of really calm, but that man I try to portray on my message is just a character reaching out to those guys that are going through that rage, and I want to teach them how to do the fight. You know,
Yes.
be productive. Be productive, and just when we hear productiveness, we often go, okay, I'll get a job, I'll start making more money, I'll go learn something. No, that's your utility.
Yes.
uh, Becoming a MGTOW, an MRA, we're fighting for something that gives them a new path to angle that rage at that anger.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a pressure release valve, whereas before you'd have no outlet for that and you just carry it around. At least you can come to Mgtow, and this is why I say to people, they seem to be very uncomfortable with the amount of anger, and it's always going to be there because there's newcomers who've just learned that they've been exploited all their life. So if they don't like the anger in Mgtow, then YouTube is a very a big space. You know, you don't have to come to Mgtow. You can go and watch a car channel, or you can go and watch um,
Yeah,
any
animals.
a golf channel. Yeah, anything you're into. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it was, I almost compared it to the feminists coming to a Mgtow channel and then leaving a comment saying, "Oh, this is wrong," and you think, well, you know, you came here to complain. And I did see it in a lot of Mgtow. They complained about the amount of anger, and I thought, well, it's part of it. It's always going to be here. It's not going to go away, and it's never going to be a big party where everybody gets over it, and then we all buy lots of gold and silver and tell everyone how great Mgtow life is, because it's not. It's not the case. There's a lot of damaged men.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that sort of like walking into a Muslim church and telling them they should be Christians?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's not going to work, and it's gonna make things worse. And yeah, we see a lot of that around Mgtow. We've seen a little bit of healing this morning on Nico's broadcast with between Sandman and Stardust. There was a little bit of getting it out in the open, talking through it, and that's what we do here, isn't it? These podcasts in the G Plus, this is such a new space, and it's a new healing space that YouTube gives us and Google gives us. I've seen the MIA guys now, and everybody's talking, and we're all grouping together, and we're finding out new spaces, and I can talk to the young guys, I can talk to the old guys, and we all group up in our, the motorcycle guys or whatever, we all group up in our special spaces because those are our interests. But now with the Google Plus thing, well, we can go across, we can bust through some borders here, can't we?
Yes. Yes.
Can I ask you, Tom, what's your perception of Mgtow in terms of, I mean, I predominantly speak about the family courts and that sort of stuff because that's mainly what I've experienced, but how would you, what's the word, compartmentalize Mgtow into groups of individuals that find themselves here, in terms of their experiences? And
I don't know if I could compartmentalize, but to me, Mgtow are men who have had their eyes opened. They're men who see the reality of our world today, and as opposed to people like white knights who can't see one thing. We're talking about the Walking Dead before. It's kind of like Mgtows are not the Walking Dead. They're the ones who are trying to, make places where they're safe from all of the people who are zombies. So,
yeah.
My heart goes out to Mgtows because those are the men who are aware of the misandry and the hatefulness towards men that's in our world today. And there are very few people who have the balls or the consciousness to be able to realize that. So, all of the pain that Mgtow folks are going through is a part of why they're able to see this. And most people don't have that kind of pain, and therefore they cannot see that our culture is completely and utterly bonkers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's if there was a compartment, that'd be the one that I'd talk about is this part of consciousness of the Mgtow group that can see the craziness that's our culture today, whereas almost no one else can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, Mgtow is not just it's not just a group of men that kind of incidentally ended up here. We were searching for this, and it gives us something to do. And I like to point out one of the viewers right now, Mgtow, and Mgtow is working on a project, and he's got some specific issues with himself that he deals with every day, and he deals with it very healthy. But he's working on video projects in here now. This gives you something to do. This gives you something to a skill, doesn't it? He's making videos, and it's a new skill. 20 years ago, if someone would have asked me if I was going to be a Mgtow producer on YouTube, I would have laughed at him. Oh, what the hell are you talking about? We weren't
Yeah.
born into these things. We were made into these things.
Do you know, I came across Mgtow. My last relationship was just tailing out. She'd abused me, and the police had been involved, and she was very obstructive with my daughter. She drove a wedge between myself and my daughter were very close, and it was the jealousy thing. She wasn't my daughter's natural mother.
Yeah.
So she drove a wedge and distanced me from my daughter.
Oh.
And I'd also caught her out with other men, trying to set herself up with other men and that sort of stuff. So I wasn't stupid. I had an exit strategy. But I can remember typing into Google, life after women. That's exactly what I typed in. And up came Patrick Henry.
Yeah.
And I heard this man speaking, and I thought, oh, wow, this man makes sense. And then, of course, you get, in the sidebar, then it was Moberg, and then Spetsnaz popped up. And after a while, I thought, oh, Jesus, what have I been doing all this time? Yeah, and I was at the age of 41. 41, I finally woke up after just trying and trying to do the thing I was programmed to do, because I had a very traditional upbringing. And I was in that environment where I was made to feel like less of a man, spoken to like less of a man. And me, myself, I felt that that was my responsibility, and I was very proud. You know, I thought, this is what I have to do. This is why I was born male. And being a manual worker and working in a male environment, you've got that. You're surrounded by alphas. So yeah, that's what brought, I actively came looking for Mgtow. I just typed in life after women, and then I realized that everybody had just given up. Everybody had given up, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Patrick Henry in Life After Women. What a lucky find that was. It's but
Yeah.
with all the names and all the different ways we go about projecting ourselves out into the manosphere, you can almost type in anything nowadays. And Patrick Henry was a great example of, he came, he did Mgtow, he found a cure for himself, and his last video was, I'm going out into the real world and doing what I need to do, and I think I've healed a lot. And he does meditation videos now, I think,
Yeah.
that helps him. And he found something here, and he found something that really, really helped with himself, and he worked through that.
Sounds
So
good.
how would you define yourself, Tom? I know you've got like an MRA background. I've got an MRA background as well. I did a lot of there's a charity in England called Families Need Fathers, and 10 years ago I was at those meetings, amongst the men with the 1,000-yard stare, and they were all, some of them were a lot worse than me. They were all shell-shocked. So that's my background. How would you define yourself, Tom?
Yeah. I think I'd just define myself as a man who sees the truth and tries to do the right thing.
Yeah. In terms of
Just the misandry and the gynocentrism. I mean, I've been blessed to not have been divorced or separated, but I still, for some reason, am able to see the hatefulness that's going on. So that's kind of a part of what defines me as I am. And when I see it, I try and do the right thing.
yeah, like the straight shooter.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, because he's got a lot of respect in Mgtow circles. I mean, a lot of people say he's married, he can't be Mgtow. He knows that, but he's aware, and he's very aware, and he's very protective over Mgtow, and he speaks out against a lot of the abuses that men suffer. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was looking over the comments, trying to see if anybody in the comments section had any questions, or we usually do this at one point during the broadcast. They're shining.
Oh, why doesn't someone come in? Is he being shy?
Yeah, he's being shy. I sent the link out to everybody, but there was quite a few podcasts this morning. And Shining's hiding on the the comment thread. I think fathers are more important. So yeah, fathers are definitely more important. Well, what can we do as men, as Mgtows, MRAs, working together? There's been a split here, isn't there? And I think what we're talking about today is getting over that split in the MRA, the MRM, and Mgtow. For a long time, it was I'm Mgtow, and I'm not going to listen to this, or I'm MRA, and I'm not going to listen to you Mgtows. And we developed a divide in the manosphere that we all can't work together. And I think it's really important that we all work together to push through some issues. And we all agree that the family courts are a huge problem nowadays. But the example I like to give us was the Measure 6 in North Dakota. You remember that one, Tom?
Which one are you talking about? The shared parenting thing?
Shared parenting, 50-50 parenting, how important that was to all of us. Just one state. If one state would have caught on, then it would have caught on like fire in the United States. But the lawyers came together, and I even seen school officials, and they pounded that out, and they put it back generally to the way it is. But at that point in Mgtow, Mgtows were arguing about some silly stuff. MRAs were having a convention in Detroit. The MRMs were pooning feminists, and we all missed it. We all equally missed the opportunity to work together as a group and go to North Dakota, even if it's just the internet, and just saturate them with men's rights issues. So I
remember that, and it turns out that since then the lawyers had donated to those commercials.
Yeah.
And they got nailed for it.
I was looking for that.
Yeah, they got them.
Am I echoing now?
No.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I was waiting for some kind of press to come out on whether the bar was going to take action for the lawyers using the money, and that's against the law.
It's against the law.
And that was the big issue. And then they took money to, prop their own interests up, didn't they?
Exactly. It's just disgusting.
But I didn't see nothing on that. I went back to that page, which is still up nowadays, Measure 6, and you can type it in and go to Measure 6 North Dakota on Facebook, and it's still up, and I'm still to this day waiting. They won't prosecute themselves, will they?
How about that?
How about that? And that tells you how deep. When you're looking at it,
there had been some judgment that came down on that. I'll have to check that, though. I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, I was looking, and maybe I just missed it. But
and maybe I just made it up.
No. Yeah, I got to look into that deeper, because I'd like to see something, and that's what we can do as MRAs, Mgtows, and start asking those questions online. Hey, what happened to those judges? You guys, you guys just swept that under the carpet. That has a lot to do with our First Amendment rights too, and I don't think people realize that when there were some issues about papers and religious institutions and protecting themselves against the press, okay. And I forget the exact name of it, but it's one of the first things they'll talk about in our First Amendment, and they violated that. Hey, Shining.
Yep.
Greetings, gentlemen. Greetings, Tom. Nice to meet you. You're right, Messenger. Thanks for opening the room today. Fantastic talk, by the way. The guys are really enjoying it on the other end. Some excellent points. I've only just heard for the first time today about parental alienation and men healing and trying to find solace and comfort, trying to find a way to heal. This is the first time I've actually heard of Tom Messenger's been championing your book and your work all week.
That's the thing, Tom. While we're on the subject of parental alienation, I know it's not recognized as a condition as such. People say it's they acknowledge it exists, but it's not a syndrome. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the DSM-5 has, they call it something else. They don't call it parental alienation syndrome. They call it something else, and I forget exactly what they call it, but it's close, but it's not the same thing. And it's a whole political football. You know, people didn't like the guy that created the name, and who knows what. But the thing is that it's real. I mean, it's very real that there are parents, and I think it's usually the mothers, who will try and alienate their kids from the fathers, and it's just heartbreaking. I wrote an article about it, in fact, a while back. It just, you know, I gave this example. If you had a therapist who was working with a psychotic person, and the psychotic person said, "Oh, the Martians are trying to get me," and the therapist agreed with them, "Oh, yes, the Martians are trying to get you," that'd be malpractice, right? But when the therapist works with a mother these days, and the mother says, "Oh, my ex-husband is an axe murderer," and the therapist says, "Oh, yes, your husband is an axe murderer," it's like, wait a minute, that's got to be malpractice. Why are you agreeing with someone who's obviously out to lunch? I mean, it's just like, it just blows my mind, you know. So the article was about that whole dilemma of you know, the parental alienation and how therapists basically can't see it. They don't see it.
Yeah, I understood it as not only verbally, but it is the act of removing that half of the child's identity completely. They would try and distance them from extended family, relatives, cousins, grandparents. They would badmouth the father so that the child would begin to resent that side of themselves, almost as if the mother then tries to be the sole parent, the only parent, and the child often, because the child had lost one parent through separation, would then side completely with the mother for fear of losing the mother as well. So that child's already lost one parent, and the child then, as a coping mechanism, says, okay, well, I'm going to completely reject the absent parent now, and I am going to cling, you know, for my life to the one remaining parent and just believe everything they say and just completely side with them. So I didn't know what effects that would have on the child when they grew up. Obviously,
I think we can see it. I mean, anyone who's met someone that's been brought up in a one-parent family, and anyone will tell you quite a lot of times they're convinced that their father is a bad person, and even though logically it doesn't make sense, you know, everything that she's told him or her, it just doesn't make sense, you know, because when you're telling a lie over a period of years and decades, that you have huge holes in the story, and the child realizes, you know, it doesn't make sense. Even though that's the case, unfortunately, it's been emotionally and it's been so ingrained in that person that it's almost impossible to have a father and son, a father and daughter relationship again. It's so difficult to pick it back up. There are some that manage it, but they always put it in the term of starting over. So they have to make a whole new relationship. It's no longer a father-son, father-daughter, a normal, natural father and child relationship. It's like one that's completely severed. It's like an amputated body. That's what I found. And the mother, she's got an invested interest in destroying that, because the more the child learns how actually how fantastic their father is, they realize you know, what kind of a childhood they've missed out on. Yeah, they had all the great stuff from their mother, possibly all the great stuff from their grandparents, but the fact is, when they realize that actually their father is not the monster their mother made out to be, they realize how different their childhood could have been.
Yes.
And in fact, I'd like to talk a little about the effects on families, on society, on children when the father is removed. Because if you think about how a child is raised by a father, it's very, very different than how a child is raised by a mother. For example, I only had my children for 2-3 years, and I would do things with them that the mother just could not do. Like I would take them running, I take them, you know, playing around. They were only like, they were just learning to walk, you know, just learning to talk. But the fact was, my children compared to other children, and after, you know, when we split up and she looked after the baby, I mean, my daughter, she was walking and talking at the age of 7 months. I've got a video of her walking and talking. She's 7 months old, and by the age of 8 months, she was running, and she was like, she's like, you know, up to the people's knees, and people were just watching this little girl. She was like 2 foot tall, well, actually 1.5 foot tall. She was running about talking, and people just couldn't believe it. And all it was is I used to take her. I used to play with her, and obviously I used to plan her in child upbringing. And also, if you come from a multiracial background as well, because I'm Chinese, my children will never know about the Chinese culture. Now, if you're, I'm going to drop him in. If you're someone like these people that don't believe in multiculturalism, but me, I think multiculturalism is a fantastic thing. The fact is, this child is going to look half Chinese, and they're never going to know that side of their of their ancestry. They're just not going to know. You know, they're going to get picked on at school because you can see it. You can see when someone's mixed race, but they're never going to know that. And also, I come from a Muslim background as well, and obviously they're never going to know about that as well. Now, obviously, whether you argue that's a good thing or a bad thing, the fact is, the child is never going to have that full upbringing. They're never going to have that choice. I mean, we're all pro freedom of choice here. We're all pro freedom of
this is interesting, Shining, because they did change the law. I think it was in 2004, where an absent father, if he's on the birth certificate, he gets parental responsibility, which means he's got exactly the same rights as a married father. So he gets a say in the child's religion, even if he doesn't live with the child. Obviously, any medical procedures, changing of the surname, schooling, all that sort of stuff, the dad gets a say in. That's the law, but nobody's aware of it. You know, the chaplain or the minister or whoever isn't aware of it. School teachers aren't aware of it, so they don't inform dads about schooling or anything like that. I don't know if doctors are aware of it, that they need consent from the father. But I mean, the laws were changed.
I know, but
they were never enforced.
In practice, well, that's exactly it. I mean, me and Universal used to talk about it all the time. The law says one thing, the judges, the solicitors, and the people do almost exactly the opposite. I mean, even when the judge makes an order for the woman to do something, like even, I mean, they break it. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, the men are totally... I mean, not unless you've been through the system, not unless you've actually been there, do you realise just how one-sided it is. I mean, even, I mean, it's just, it's just like so apparent. It's like the woman does not get punished for breaking the order. The man gets the maximum imposed on him if he breaks the order. That's just how it is.
Yep. That's how it is. It's a sad state, eh? And gentlemen, I'm going to have to bow out. It's been enjoyable.
Thanks for your time, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Tom. And you're always welcome to pop in and out. Now you have the little thing on your G+ where you can, you know, talk to us, and you're always welcome here.
Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and it's been good talking with you all. And you take good care and have a good rest of the program.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll see you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
yeah,
look.
the legal side of it. I mean, there's a clear warning attached to a contact order, a defined contact order from a a British court has a clear warning which states the punishments that whoever breaches the order is going to be subject to, and it includes fines, it includes unpaid work like community service, and it includes imprisonment. Not one of these orders has been enforced, and not one mother that I'm aware of has been punished for breaching these orders. They just flagrantly breach the order, no consequences, and they think, well, there you go. You know, it's only worth the paper it's written on. And they won't imprison a mother because they say, we can't. She's got a dependent, which is the child. So the warning isn't worth the paper it's written on either. So, you know, for all the money that a man invests in this legally binding document, you may as well just fucking flush it down the toilet, because they can breach it left, right and centre. They can even just completely disregard it, and they don't get enforced. And if you want to try and get it enforced, it's more money, it's more legal fees, and you just spend years of your life. I met a man who'd lost his house, remortgaged, all that sort of stuff, to the tune of 50 grand. I'm sure there's even worse stories of men whose whole life just, you know, and all his earnings went into a lawyer's bank account, probably paid half their mortgage, you know, and he didn't get anywhere with it. So, yeah. The whole thing stinks. The whole thing stinks, and it hasn't changed.
These tender years doctrine seems to be some kind of unspoken rule that's not really a legal practice with the courts, don't they? I know it's sort of reciprocal. It's reciprocal logic they're using. They're saying, think about the children, and then they turn to you and say it's not about you, and then they turn to the mom and say it's about you.
Yeah.
It's sad because people hear this. The guys in Mgtow, they hear this, but they find it hard to believe. I mean, if somebody told you that like 10, 20 years ago, you find it hard to believe. I mean, how could a justice system, how could it even call itself a justice system? You know, family court.
It's become entrenched now, hasn't it? It's not like it was ever going to improve past that point. They saw that it was a money-making machine, and they thought, okay, well, let's just firmly establish this system and leave it as it is.
Because guys, if you're listening out there and you haven't had children, you're thinking of having children, you're thinking of getting a nice girl, a nice Noel, having a family together, having a child together. When you split up, if she's religious and you're atheist, that child is going to have a religious upbringing. If you're religious and she's atheist, the child is going to have it's basically what a nation brought up by whatever the woman chooses.
And if you dare try to go to that school, I mean, my daughter goes to a church school, so all the school assemblies are in the local church. If I dare go to that school and say, I don't want my daughter being indoctrinated with any religion, and I'm perfectly well within my legal rights to say that, how do you think they're going to look at me?
I live in a
predominantly Christian country, or a country with a queen who's the head of the Church of England, and then I rock up and say, don't teach my daughter any of that church shit. They're just going to immediately say, keep him away from the children, because he doesn't believe in God. Your legal rights don't count for anything. And to be honest, some of the Christians I've met are the worst people I've ever met. They stink. They really do. I've met very few good Christians, and they hide behind the religion. Not that we want to get on the subject of religion, but most of them hide behind it to cover up for the fact that they're an arsehole.
Yeah, this is the problem. It's a traditional system that's out there where they have these metaphysical rules that you have to abide by that aren't real rules. When I looked at the family court system, I always got the impression that it was a traditional kangaroo court, where tender rules doctrines and think about the children before yourself, and their God or their image of God was, actually the civil religion is their God, and it was just a farce of a system.
And the thing is, guys don't realize just how little power they have. For example, some guys just think, I've heard a couple of guys say to me, no, you've got to take charge of the situation. You've got to be the man. But, well, last time I went to see my kids, the grandparents called the police.
Yeah.
The grandparents called the police,
Yeah.
and they said I had to go. I says, I'm here to see my kids, and they said you can't see them. It's not your property.
And the police are only aware of criminal law. They don't understand the civil law. If you try and explain all the procedures you've just been through and your civil rights, or the legal documentation you've got to back up what you're saying, the police haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
No, they're not.
All they say is, you're causing a disturbance. It's a breach of the peace. If
Breach
you
of the peace.
move on, we're going to arrest you and take you away. And they will. They'll lock you up for a day. You sit in the cells for 24 hours or whatever, and basically you're falsely imprisoned and wrongfully arrested. And what can you do about that? Nothing.
And then of course, if you do it again, they'll arrest you again. You can get guys. Listen, guys, you can get arrested for going to see your own kids.
Yeah.
And they'll call it breach of the peace. They'll call it breach of the peace. All you're doing is you're going to see. You're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to be the father, and you get arrested for it. And the charge is breach of the peace. And this is the ace card the police use every time they want to arrest the man for something that he shouldn't get arrested for. They call it breach of the peace.
And more than once, and then you face a harassment charge because you're harassing the mother. I mean, when you've got a young child who's 2, maybe 3 years old, your only point of contact to see that child is the mother.
Right.
And I spent time in prison with a young lad. He was completely messed up. He was in there for harassment because he was ringing the mother of his daughter. His daughter was 18 months old, to try and establish some form of contact. And of course, he fell foul of the harassment law. Next thing you know, he's in a prison cell. I mean, who else is he going to ring to see his own child? It's just insanity. When the police get involved, they're completely oblivious to civil law or any of the family laws, and then they just start giving out arrests and convictions. Next thing you know, you go to get a contact order and you've got a criminal record for harassing the mother. It doesn't look good, does it? It doesn't look good.
And that's the problem, guys. Young fathers, they're conflicted, extremely conflicted. There's no more. I can't think of a stronger conflict than that one. There probably is, but you're trying to do what you think is the right thing, and everybody shames men. The idiot David Cameron called them absent fathers. The arsehole calls them absent fathers. The fact is, men can't see their kids. You can't shame a man because you're stopping him from seeing his kids, and then he's trying to do what the society's telling him to do, trying to see his kids, and then you're locking him up for doing it. So these young fathers, they're conflicted and they're committing suicide. They're going down this very dark road of not quite understanding what he's supposed to do, who is he, what is a man, what is a father, what is expected of him, what's the honourable thing. It's like a very desperate situation for the.
They slap a label on a man, don't they? They've got this absent label now. You are absent.
Right.
It was an involuntary absence, and I always correct them and I say, well, no, I'm non-resident. It's fucking pointless arguing the toss, but rather than them accusing me of walking out on my child, I say, no, I'm non-resident. I'm a non-resident father. I don't live with the mother, but I am my daughter's father. I'm not absent. I'm not missing from her life. And they just look at me as if to say, what does it matter?
Yeah, that's the thing. And the feminists and the women support this. Because David Cameron and the feminists, they wanted to criminalise absent fathers. So they're going to criminalise you.
All fathers.
Yeah, they're going to criminalise you if you try and see your kids, and they're going to criminalise you if you don't see your kids.
Let me run this by by Joe, or maybe you even saw this shining. Obama did a speech, and he basically shamed all dads for not being in their families.
Yeah.
It's the first time I saw it. I saw it yesterday, and I thought, you cunt. You know, what an arsehole. He basically said, you know, you're not real men. You know, you didn't stand by your kids. Why have you walked out? And I thought, do you think these men wanted to fucking walk out? Don't you realise that they got forced out, or the mother intentionally made it that way and used the police and the courts to get him out of the child's life, and now they're manipulating the situation even more to try and alienate him from the kids? Is Obama that fucking stupid that he can't see what's been happening for fucking decades
They don't
in a world he fucking lives in?
Yeah, he's one of those blind males that we talk about. He has no fucking idea. He's a traditionalist. He's a mangina, and he doesn't see. And
Big
personally, you know, I have very, very angry thoughts for these men. How I want to wake them up, and I want to give them a big chunk of reality real quick.
Kick him in the bollocks.
I want to kick him. Yeah, I want to beat the fucking tar out of them.
I think a lot of men would, you know, a lot of men. But what's left? I mean, you have this society that's as conflicting laws, that is constantly moving the goalposts, that's double standards, that's basically very misanthropical in its very core. What's left? Joe, he had this plan. He said, get a fake ID, just go around screwing all the women, and just forget them after that. And that's all you're left with. It's true.
That's
all society is leaving men to do.
That I say that, and I believe in it, and I'll say it to these men. Get a fake ID, go around, make as many girls, because you're inflating the system. Now let the community that's telling you, that's extracting your utility, let the community be the daddy then, okay? Because at a certain point, when you get to me, and I don't know if Messenger's at that point, we realize there's nothing we can do.
Yeah. You throw your hands in the air and you just go, fuck it, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Do whatever the fuck you like. I'm going in this direction. You lot can fucking stay there in the pile of shit.
Yeah.
I'm done.
You can stay there. I'm done with it because I'm moving on with my life, because I'm more important to me than that. We look at these guys that are trying to push that man up shit on you, that play with your kids. Was Obama doing that? You should get out there and play with your kids more bullshit.
Yeah, it was all you're letting your children down and all of that. You need to be a better father. Fucking hell, you know, we've been we've crawled through broken glass.
Yeah.
To try and bring our own children up, and by the time you finally fucking get somewhere with it, your kids are grown up.
Right. God.
That time. Does he not think we want that time back? We've missed the childhood. We missed. My daughter was ironically, my daughter was a bridesmaid yesterday.
Oh.
Not that I would go to a wedding, but she was really excited, you know, and said, "Oh, you're not going to see me in my dress, Dad?" I said, "No, I'm not." I said, you know, there's lots of things I've missed, and I've come to terms with that now. I'm not going to see everything she does, and sometimes she wants me to be there, and if I'm not there, I'm not there. That's just the way it is. But for some fucking idiot like Obama to turn up and say, you need to take a fucking role, what would happen to me if I turned up at that wedding?
Yeah, your ex-wife would see you and probably call the police.
Exactly. The man, he's got his head up his arse, firmly wedged up his own arse, and that's a scary thought. If he's the president, it's a fucking scary thought.
There's very little options for us, and like you said, I just went through this year. I realized that my since January, I realized that my oldest daughter's 28 now, and my middle son's 24 now, and my youngest son just turned 18. I missed it. I missed all of it, and there's nothing I could do, and there's no amount of money I can throw at that, and there's no amount of time I can spend now, unless they decide someday that they're going to show up at my doorstep. The only thing I can do is take care of myself right now. So if
Yeah.
they show up at my doorstep, they have a bed to sleep in.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And it's, I think we sort of spoke about this before. Um, if they have grandchildren, then you've got a chance again to
Right. Yeah.
you know, not compensate for not having children, because I've seen that before as well. My ex couldn't have children, so she tried to become a mother to my daughter, which meant her trying to force my daughter's mum out of the picture. And there were a lot of issues there, a lot of jealousy and that sort of stuff. And I've seen grandparents as well, grandmothers, become overly attached to grandchildren and try and overrule the parents. And then the child is faced with discipline from mum, dad, grandparents.
Yeah.
And it's too much for the child. My goddaughter's hair started falling out because she was being disciplined every day 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah. That's something I had to really work on. If anything happened in that homestead over there, in that other
Yeah.
house that they were living, when they got here, nothing was going to be brought with it, and there was a new refreshing morning because we were just going to do this here in the now.
The sanctuary. It's just a sanctuary. They
Yeah,
come and they know that there's going to be no crap there. You know, eat some food,
eat some food. Yeah, watch
chill out.
TV. Yeah, grab the chips. You know, whatever. You know, we'll go do something. And the first thing I ask them, you guys want to do something today? And
Yeah.
we go do it or whatever they want, and we leave all that stress behind. But the system, the biggest fear in my life right now at my age is they're going to come back, reassess my child support, and take my house away from me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I've just had child support in the last few days for some reason back on my case. And because of the arrangement I've got, they reassessed and said, "Oh, you don't have to pay anything." I said, "Well, I already know that. You know, you're wasting your time. You need to speak to each other and
yeah,
just rather than send me letters telling me something I already know, you'd speak to whoever in your department told you to send me a letter." But then the guy started speaking about arrears. He said, "Oh, there's some arrears to pay." I said, "Okay, what are these arrears from?" He said, "Well,
right.
obviously they go back a couple of years." I said, "What are you talking about now?"
Yeah, they can,
And,
when they
and I
do a
was like,
reassessment, they
"Yeah,
can come up with
exactly."
something totally new at that point, and then say, well,
And
you owe us $100,000.
he said, "Oh, right, we've got to backdate this 70 something pounds a week for 2 years." And I said, "I've just told you we've got, because in England, if you've got a mutual agreement, they prefer that to be done." And I said, "You're aware there's a mutual agreement between myself and my mother's daughter, and I've been paying that." I said, "So now you're telling me that you've reassessed
Right.
and you want me to pay this backdated amount on top of the agreement I've already got, so I'm actually paying child support plus a private agreement with the mother?" I said, "You know what's going to happen if you try and enforce this?" I
Right.
said, "My daughter will get fuck all because I'll end up in a cardboard box." And
Right.
he said, "Oh, you can't speak to me like that." And I said, "Well, you know, get a fucking calculator, do the math, and then ring me up, because I'm sick of the way they speak to you.
Yeah.
Honestly, they speak to you like a piece of dirt. They treat you like someone who's walked out on their children and abandoned them." And I always say to them, "My daughter's got more than enough. Believe me, she is comfortable.
Hmm.
The only thing that's missing from her life is a dad that lives with her, and believe me, that's not my fault either." Yeah, they're just mercenary fucking assholes, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I tell this to the guys all the time. They just don't want that 18 years is nothing. They want your entire life. They want to put you in rears. They want to take your house later on. They want to put that back in a system. And that if they do take my house, you know what happens? It goes into their system. A couple baby mamas will end up living here, and you know, rent free, and it's reciprocal of itself. That's the point now let's go back to this red pill rage thing again. These are the things we have to deal with after and forever with the system. And when I go into a rage about these things, I really mean the last straw. The moment where they try to take this house is the moment I bring the guns out.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And they should realize that. Yeah, they should realize that there's been too much taken already. And these guys talk about, oh, you should not be that rageful. You should not think like that. No, I'm done with that.
Yeah,
I think perfectly good state of mind, and things are going great. Next thing you know, you get up in the morning, there's a letter on the doormat, and the shitstorm starts.
Yeah.
Someone from that department has decided they're going to pick on you today, and the next thing you know, you've got a fucking great bill for thousands of dollars or pounds.
Yeah.
And you just think, now I've got to ring some cunt I don't want to speak to, and they speak to you like you're a cunt, and it just all starts again, and they wonder why you keep having to bash the system and come online and just keep trying to get it through to men that you don't want to be in this situation. Do not fucking get in this situation.
Well, I'm surprised more men haven't got the guns out. I'm surprised there haven't been more.
That's shocking to me. As many men as there are in my general area around here that are to the breaking point, I'm surprised that we haven't done this already. I'm surprised we haven't burnt that building down. And I told you the story where I told them once, I'd like to see this building burnt down. I'd like to see all you people dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame you in the least.
Men turn the guns on themselves.
Yeah, men turn the guns on themselves.
They become so angry, and they never get their side of it validated. So what they do, they turn all that hatred and anger somewhere, and they redirect it to themselves, which is
that's
why.
The thing.
It's wrong. We should be redirecting it back out into the system with Mgtow. Funnel that anger. We give men somewhere to funnel it properly. Them are the people out there that deserve it. Track those people down. Interfere with their lives. Get out there. Do what you can do in the little senses of spreading the Mgtow word. But man, if you ever get a chance to take a shot at those people, take that shot.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I try to put it to people that say, oh, be careful how you speak about women, don't call women evil because you're going to end up with a massacre of all women. That's not the case. I mean, the men that come to Mgtow because of bad women, it's proven time and time again. And guys, you need to wake up to this. A man would rather kill himself than kill the mother of his children.
Yeah, don't kill yourselves. Don't kill yourselves.
You can't attack the mother of your children because you hurt your child indirectly by proxy. Right. You cannot do it, and the mother knows this. Now, mothers feel no remorse. For some reason, they don't see that hurting the child's mother hurts the child. They can live with that. But a man has more empathy towards his own child. He can see that if he strangles finances, if he harms the mother emotionally, or makes it harder for her to function and provide for his child because the child lives with the mother, he indirectly damages his own child. And men can't do that. I couldn't do it.
No.
Exactly. And that's the thing.
I'll be honest, I could have strung that bitch up from a fucking tree many a time.
Yeah.
In the middle of it, I really hated that woman. I wouldn't piss on her if she was on fire. But with those strong feelings of hatred and my intent to do harm to her, I still couldn't do it because it would hurt my daughter. And then I just went out and I drank and I got arrested. And I did everything that was bad for me, and I paid the price, and all the consequences came back on me. And that's why I say to people, accept that as your reality, because if you don't come to terms with the fact that it's not fucking fair and you've got to live with it and you've got to fucking stand up, when you're ready, when you've dealt with it, then you will just remain a broken man, and all you will do is punish yourself, and you'll be in no fit state to fucking look after anyone, not even yourself.
Right. Now I say, forget about that woman. Just forget about her 100%. It's not about the woman, and it's not about going after her. Funnel
Yeah.
yourself into more useful ways and hitting society. Because them are the people that, maybe you can't identify them right now. There's an HHS building right down the street. Them are the people down there. The courts, the judges, the lawyers. Them are the people that's doing this to us, not the woman.
I've
She's
always
just
said
taking.
that. I've always
Yeah.
said that because the thing is, if the police had just kept their dumb, thick, uneducated asses out of my business, I could have solved everything that
Right.
went on between me and my ex. I could have solved it. But the fact is that the police stuck their pig noses in the business. They made a mountain out of a molehill, and then all of a sudden, another set of kids are without their fathers. The fact is, women, they bitch, they argue, and they scream, and they lie all the time. They do that
They do
as a
that,
matter of their nature. They blow things way out of proportion. Oh, he hasn't bought the right bread today. She kicks up a big fucking fuss. All of a sudden, the entire house is ablaze with shouting. Or he hasn't. He's forgotten my birthday. He's forgotten my anniversary. And all of a sudden, he's the worst man in the world. And all of a sudden, he's like the worst paedophile, rapist, murderer. Honestly, women are like this. It's going to happen. But there was a time when if you call the police and the police was called out to a domestic, they realised it was a domestic. They realised that their involvement needs to be kept to a minimum because
Right.
it's not just a person's life at stake. It's an entire family's lives that are at stake. But nowadays, the police, new legislation, the idiot government, they've seen it fit to just completely destroy that family, to destroy that man. It's so gynocentric to the point where nothing matters except for that woman's feelings, and that child will be given to him. I mean, we've seen the video footage after news coverage of some woman killing her baby, or some woman beating up her baby, some woman, stamping on her baby, mistreating her baby, and it's like. It's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong because the government are getting involved when they don't need
Government. Yeah, it's the 100% the government. That's why I have the don't say the F word around here. Don't validate the women in any single way whatsoever in your life. You give them power when you do that. The correct parties to be angry with is the judges, the lawyers, the police. And in a police to a minimal state, the judges or the lawyers that are pushing this stuff, they need to go. The HHS, all those little busy workers down there that want to fuck your life up. Yeah, they need to go.
The stats, right? This is fact, and this is not statistics for statistics' sake. This is where a child is at risk. Now, they talk about children, especially young girls. If the natural father isn't living in that house, that girl is 10 times more likely to be sexually abused. And it's more often than not by a trusted friend or member of the family. Okay, so what they're actually doing by removing the natural father from the house is putting children at risk. These judges, fucking police that remove the natural father, people will take advantage of a woman on her own with young children because there's no man there. There's no fucking man to kick someone up the arse and tell him to get the fuck out.
There's no better protector for a child than her natural father.
Exactly.
99.99% of the time, no man is willing to give up as much as a father does for his daughter, to protect her, to make sure she's all right.
He would fight and die for his child. And I always said that to my ex, why are you worried about her when she's with me? She's safer with me than she is with anyone in the world.
With any other person in the world.
Right. We know that, fathers that do get their child, only 12% of them in my country, and maybe even less, are in poverty. When you look at the stat for women in poverty, it's up to 30%.
Yeah.
It's doubled, and that's a huge amount. 23 million people, women, just have no ability to take care of their kids. And this whole idea of tender years doctrines, throw that shit out the door, because when it comes to push comes to shove, they have no ability to take care of the kids. They have no instinct to take care of the kids. All they're looking for is another father figure to come in and do that for them.
I think these women where I come from, I mean, I live, you're probably the same, Shining, you know, I live on a British council estate, and there's lots of single mums everywhere, and the drug dealers are fucking them.
Oh, yeah.
And they're fucking them because the women give them pussy for cocaine. So the children are in bed late at night, the drug dealer turns up, or the pissed up drunk man who happens to have a wrap of cocaine, so she opens her legs for him. These are the men that are fucking our children's mothers. You know, these are what the single mums are inviting into their houses. You know, this is what the government's done. It's taken the natural fathers out of the houses and creeping around upstairs at night where our fucking kids are in bed are these fucking drunk,
It's true.
fucking cocaine-fueled thugs, you know, whatever, bad boys, whatever you want to fucking call them. And it's a fact.
It's
you know,
true. It's true.
There's a guy on site, you know, I was speaking to the other morning. He said, "Do you want to see my new girlfriend?" You know, and he's a bad boy, but he's a friend of mine. He's done time and whatever, but that's the environment I live in. So, you know, those are the people I mix with. He's a good guy, but he's a bad boy. And I said to him, you know, yeah, she looks all right. I said, "Any kids?" He said, "Yeah, she's got a couple of kids. She's 24. She's got 2 children."
Three
and the local, yeah, and he deals drugs on the side at the weekend. You know, so she's like, "Oh, I get free drugs. I'll open my legs." Where are the kids?
Yeah, where
The kids are in bed. And he's pissed. Anyway, I know he's fucking pissed because, you know, all he does on a weekend is get lashed and do cocaine.
Yeah, he gets locked in his room. My mom's, you know, off doing her thing most of the time.
Disgusting.
Yeah,
That was my first trip to jail when I came over to pick up my kids one day, and there was a guy laying on a couch. He was a drug dealer, or whatever she was doing, you know. And I grabbed him and I fucking threw him out of the house. Get the fuck off of my couch, because no matter what, I bought that couch. I pay for the food.
Right,
yeah, he's going to the fridge and eating my food that I'm paying for.
What a bastard!
Bullshit. And I grabbed my Bowie knife and I chased him down the street. I was gonna
and stick up his arse. Then now look at all these prostitutes here. All these prostitutes, all these porn stars, all these women. They're all single mothers. Now you ask yourself. Some father, some man tried to fight custody for that child, and the judge awarded every one of those cases. They awarded that child or the children to a prostitute.
Yeah.
Now think about that.
Yeah, they do that. That happens every day. They award the drug dealers, prostitutes.
I met a man whose child, he remarried. So the child actually lived with him, and the natural mother was out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the child was about 13 and still not of an age where he could say who he wanted to live with in the eyes of the court. I don't think there is a defined age. I think they just decided whether the child was competent enough to decide.
There is no defined age.
And the court ruled that the child should reside with the stepmother. And the dad was fucking. I mean, his mind was all over the place. He couldn't understand how the court had ordered that his child live with the stepmother, not even a blood relative, and she got full custody. And now he was applying for a contact order so he could see his own son, and have some form of contact, while the son resided with the stepmother.
That is so gynocentric. It's
No,
despicable.
they want the males out of the life so they can tap our utilities, and it just becomes
Enslave the men by
you know, that's all it is, and that's where it becomes, you know, we talk about force. That's when it becomes an issue of force. We have to force these things, and hey, I'll be the first guy on the head of that line running towards them with the pitchfork.
I think a lot of guys, you know, they're ready for that. It's just the entire dynamics of it. I think many guys, I would say millions of men around the Western world, you know, they're ready for that. You know, things are on tipping point. You know, things are on are just on the edge of a balance here, and I think, you know, men they've had enough. I mean, we've seen our friends, we know friends of friends who have killed themselves because of this. We know friends that have gone down some awful roads and just completely destroyed them as human beings. I mean, even as a nation, I mean, I don't think there's any coincidence that, you know, the UK, America, you know, the Western countries, we've become a more gynocentric world where, you know, women are bringing up the nations, you know, women are bringing up the children, fathers have got very little input, and everything from innovation, technology, sports, everything. I mean, for example, the UK, they used to be quite good at cricket and football.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any. I don't think it's a coincidence, the fact that since fathers have been removed from families. I mean, look at all the big, like the 70s or the 80s, all the big tennis players, all the big football, rugby players, etc. They all were taught or were introduced to the game by their fathers at a very young age. You know, the fathers would take them to the pitch, take them to the field. They play a couple of. I know in America you've got this. You've got like baseball and American football and stuff like this. In the UK, it was the same as well. You know, the fathers they take them, they throw a few, you know, they throw a few bats and balls about, and they, you know, play some football and stuff. But they don't have that now. That's gone now, and now you see how that's had a knock-on effect on everything else. I mean, we just took sports as one example, but for other things, I mean, a child would adopt or investigate the interest of his father's profession or his father's hobbies. And his father's, for example, would introduce him to like electronics or to car mechanics, and the child would watch the father tinkering away, and he'd build an interest, and he'd have like some special. By the time he goes to school, he's already has some speciality or some insight into a profession or skill taught by his father. And that is gone, guys. Honestly,
when you look at who's doing more damage to the children, they're doing more damage to the children than I could ever do in my lifetime.
They're destroying the country. The fact is, it's destroying the West, and it's no small thing. I mean, it's passed around the Mgtow circles. They're saying this could be the fall of the West. You know, when we talk about the fall of Rome, how was it that the most powerful nation just all of a sudden disappeared, and now what's left of it? We don't even. Most people don't even know what you're talking about when they say the Roman Empire. You tell them it's in Italy, and Rome's in Italy. They say, oh, what? So what, did they make pizzas and pasta and stuff? Nobody knows what the Roman Empire is. They don't know anymore. And they were once the superpower. In fact, they were the superpower only a couple of 100 years ago. You know, within. You know, before the West, before the, you know, England took over, before the Europeans took over, the Romans were the empire, were the superpower, were the spreading empire, and amongst the Mgtow circles, there's a belief, as well as other circles, that it was destroyed through gynocentrism. You know, we talk about how women that were given, you know, power and voting rights and stuff like this amongst the Roman Empire. It's debatable, but it's a very feasible theory.
Yeah, it seems like that because we can see the destructive nature of it here. You know, history repeats itself. We're just repeating that same old cycle because these traditionalists and blue pill men just can't see it. You know, they're just going to keep clinging.
And that's right. So what's left? What's left for Mgtow? What's left for the men? All that's left is the PUA. That's all society is given men. You know, you need to have game. You know, you need to act more wealthier than you actually are. You need to talk in a specific way. You know, you need to treat in a specific mean manner, and then after you bang her, leave her.
Bang her, leave her, hit it and quit it.
And there's no woman alive that will say that's a good system. But women, this is all you're leaving the men. Yeah. It's your fault. It's your stupid ass fault that you're making men into these as PUA skanks, into these fake ID sleep around Joes.
Yeah,
it's your fault.
It's their fault. They don't understand that. You know, when I say these things that I say, and it sounds very crass. It sounds like I'm angry, but they're very logical. They make sense. This is the only thing that's been left for us.
And do you know what? I can't blame guys at all. I mean, think about it. The three of us, we've been through it. You know how devastating it is to be in that situation where you lose yourself as a man, as a father, as a human being. You've
Right.
been there. Now, for the other men that haven't been through that, all they can do is detach themselves from wanting to be a father, from wanting to love their children. That's all they can do, because
All they can do.
nobody wants to be in our situation. So all that's left for them now is, oh, do you know what? If I have a kid, I don't want to know about it. Fuck it. Fuck the kids. So I can't blame that guy. Oh, I mean, there was one guy that says you just have to forget the kids, that the parasites. I completely disagree with that guy, but the fact I can understand where he's coming from, because he doesn't want to be in that situation where his heart and his soul is so attached to this little offspring of his, he can't live without him or her.
Yeah,
I can't blame him.
Yeah, when you look at two sides of the bar, what's the difference in both of them? At least you're happy in one of them.
Mm.
You know, there's just certain extremes that Mgtows and we have to go to insulate ourselves and armor ourselves. So at least at the end of the day, I'm not that unhappy man, because if I ever get turned into that again, that's when I probably will snap.
Yeah.
You know what I think about people say you make sacrifices to be a Mgtow, especially the I don't know what you call us, monks or whatever,
Yeah.
the one completely abstain. In my opinion, it is not making a sacrifice.
No.
To refuse to take a woman out for dinner. One, because women talk copious amounts of boring shit anyway, and any man who pretends to be interested in that is just lying because he wants to get laid. Two, sex is overrated. Most women are shit at sex. Most women are unwashed and they smell.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the bare facts now. If you're a man who likes to go down on a woman, if you don't put your fingers down there first and bring them somewhere near your nose just to make sure it's fucking safe, then you're taking a big chance.
Oh yeah.
Women are, let's be blunt about this, because there are lots of people who say Mgtow haven't got experience or Mgtow don't know we do know what we're fucking talking about, and we know for a fact that to pay for a meal which could be 150 quid to suffer a boring fucking woman laying all her problems on you, and then getting home with her and banking on the fact that she isn't still dripping with the cum from another man, a day or two before, and you're going to be getting your face down there. You may come out with an STD. We're not making any sacrifices. I am fucking done with the filthy fucking whores that are out there. And believe me, where I'm from, women are fucking foul. They are disgusting. People say, who's that fucking idiot that looks like Rochefort, that coffee time fucking dickhead?
Oh, God,
yeah, he's a fucking idiot. And he says, you're not looking for the right women, like he's fucking cracked it. I hope she fucking cleans his clock out, because he's a fucking idiot. He's completely oblivious to everything that's going on. And he's a dickhead. He is a dickhead. And honestly...
If anything, Mgtow's raised my expectation to a level that's unobtainable with women. None of them can stand up to my expectation, because I look out over my community. I haven't seen a good-looking woman in this community, and maybe it's just because I live in a small town and they're all fucking farm-fed fucking hogs. I haven't seen a good-looking woman in probably fucking a year.
Yeah. You see the odd one, don't you? And they're high maintenance anyway. They've upped their market value.
And the thing is that they get so much male attention anyway. Yeah. It's like, every dating website, every Tinder and Plenty of Fish and all the big ones, those women, they get so much attention. It's what's the point? I mean, if you guys want to go for it, you go for it, but. And I'm not gonna grade myself and play the PUA game just so I can mess about with this a woman that's been she's not even second hand, is she? She's like 10, 20, 30 times around the block, and like I said, guys, it's all in your head. You think you're having an orgasm because
You know what it is? It's their sense of achievement. It's their male pride. They come out saying, "I'm the man."
I'm the
Out
man.
of all of you men in this place, you picked me because I'm the man. She picked you because you lied to her and fed her some bullshit, you know, that you made a big promise. And then you got to stir a load of old fucking porridge because you're not the first. You won't be the last. So you're not the man. You're one of many men.
Yeah.
PUA just share women. And if the cycle goes on for long enough, they will all have stuck their dick in the same pussy.
Yeah.
And that is disgusting. They may as well just, they may as well just rub dicks because essentially that's exactly what they're doing. They're all putting their dick in the same hole.
Yeah, they're all touching dicks.
Yeah.
And they say we're gay.
We're doing a sausage fest. I mean, they're on a mass fucking sword fight out there.
Yeah, and they say we're gay. Fuck you guys are fucking homos.
Dicking up the men's cum all the fucking time, and they strut around and tell everyone, that they've got it right. Really?
Really? Yeah. No.
You fucking crack on with that,
Have
I'd
a
rather
little.
have a wank in a sock.
Yeah, have a little dignity.
I know, guys. It's pretty messed. I mean, you remember how it was, guys, when you were young and you haven't been with a woman before. The type of silly things you do to impress her, the type of stupid things you'd say, to impress a woman. I mean, there's some guys they never go out of that. They're always in that phase.
Yeah, I see these 70-year-old guys running around still whining about not having. Oh, I lost my girlfriend. Fucker, grow up.
Oh well, some guys they have to learn it.
Yeah, there was an old guy on site. He must have been. How old must he? He must have been in his early 60s.
Yeah.
And all he does is drink all of his money, and then he got some of that Viagra gel. You know that gel they've got? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you do? Swallow it or rub it on your dick or something?
I don't know what they do with it. I've never had that problem.
It was so, yeah, exactly. Why do you need it? And he was so excited, and I looked at him and I thought, you're a fucking pathetic man. You drink all your money.
He drinks it up, yeah.
You can barely get a fucking boner, and now you've got to get this fucking this gel. And he was bragging about how he gets some woman, and I mean, this guy looked like a fucking scarecrow anyway, so I shudder to think the type of woman he gets in bed when he's drunk. And he said, I'm going to get this gel and I'm going to lick it off her tits and then I'm going to bone her. And I thought, and then you're going to come back to work on Monday with no fucking money.
Yeah.
Some fucking STD or crabs or something. And you think you're clever. And it's just the way he came into the tea room and was bragging. And I thought, oh man, I never want to be like you.
Right. That's it, isn't it, guys? It's about bragging rights. It's about bragging rights, and it's about being the man. It's about being the coffee time Roosh V guy. But guys, listen, if Warwick Davis and Mini-Me can get women, yeah, your claim to fame that you can get women. That's not something to brag about. I mean, you can get a woman for 50 quid, $50. It's a brag about.
Oh God, yeah, that's awful. It's horrible.
You can get. I've said this before in a video. If young men want to risk it, just because the urge has become too strong, and they obviously, it's a lot stronger in young men, and they're less rational about it. But don't take the chance with some old fucking slur that you find in a club. Just go to a fucking prostitute, get it out of your system. Believe me, once you've fucking shot your bolt, you really do not want to be with her anymore. You don't want to listen to her shit. You just want to go. You want to get a cab. You want to go and watch a football game, or you want to have a beer. But the last thing you want to do is have that fucking woman cuddling you and fucking talking shit in your ear. Honestly, if young men get the urge, just go and fucking pay for it. It's a fair exchange. Money for sex.
Yeah.
Done. Job done.
Right. Somebody on the thread just said the penis is shaped so you can remove it and leave.
Yeah. Was that the one that said it's for removing the... What's left from the last guy? Yeah,
Yeah.
HD, and it's like the longest dick will get further up and scoop out all the old residue, for want of a better word. You know, and it's more chance of impregnating the woman. I mean,
right, when you start seeing these things, and we start talking honestly as white CS, and they had Dark Knight and Nico were talking about. You know, there's been 30 guys in that. You know, some level, the chances of it you're actually being your kid goes down dramatically. And they're just figuring these things out. We got all these really bright people out there that are just figuring these things out. That a woman having multiple partners is not a good thing for you if you're trying to procreate with her. It's just nasty and it's disgusting. They're bacteria filled anyways, and
I don't know. What's the solution?
Black Ram said it best. Did you hear Black Ram's speech?
Oh, which one is that?
He made a brilliant speech. Black Ram 313, I think.
Okay, yeah.
He just summed it up about how women come to the man and they try and pretend that they're fucking all saintly and you've got to treat me with respect and be a gentleman and all of that stuff. And then he broke it down, their past. They've had dicks in their mouth. They've had dicks up their asses. They may have had two or more dicks at the same time. You know, they come and they with this facade, this story about how you've got to treat them like a lady and that. And you know for a fact, most of these women, they go out, they get drunk every weekend, they take drugs, they go to clubs and go home with random men. And you know what happens in a bedroom. You know, these women are filthy.
I don't know. I don't
Use
know.
your imagination. Yeah, but I tell you now, me and a friend of mine rung a woman up and we said to her, come round. And she said, what for? We said, we want you to fucking hoover the place up. It needs a good clean. Right? And you're going to be naked as well when you do it. And no word of a lie, a taxi fucking turned up 20 minutes later and I said, I don't believe it. She's fucking here. Yeah, and we heard the high heels come up, and she got undressed and she said, right, who's first? And we said, no, we want you to do the hoovering.
Yeah, there's the vacuuming.
So she started vacuuming the fucking room, and the next thing you know, we both went, oh, come on, there's better things to do than watch her vacuum. So we spent till 5 in the morning just taking turns on the bitch. And the last time I saw her, she was with a bloke, and he was really protective. He was like, you're looking at my woman, and I thought, oh, mate.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that before.
We through that bitch, you know, she got ruined.
Oh, yeah. Me and my buddy, we went up to the convenience store one day, and this girl walked in, and me and my buddy visit the bar a lot. He's looking at her, and he goes, I know you. You're Karen or something. And it just rang in my head. Oh, that's that bitch. And she goes, here, let me introduce you to my new husband. And he was such a wimp, a punk, and we were like, oh, and Tom looked at me and he got this big grin because he knew what I was thinking. That bitch has been through 100 guys at that fucking bar. And he had no fucking idea.
Marriage material.
Yeah, marriage material. She was one of these big, she had this big fat ass. She hit the wall and her ass doubled in size.
Guys, I mean, guys are just so dumb, aren't they? I mean, some guys, they just, when it comes to women, they think with what they call that lizard brain. I mean, some guy could marry that, what's that woman, what's that girl that did that Wrecking Ball song? Miley Cyrus or something.
Oh, Miley Cyrus,
so,
yeah.
Some guy would marry Miley Cyrus and think she's a bloody virgin. That's how some guys think. You know, some guy will marry Beyonce and think, oh, wow, I've got a real good catch here.
Right, yeah. I was just looking at that Meghan Trainor. She's what I want in a man. And, you know, I looked at her and I go, what I want is a woman about a woman half your size.
I want the woman that you ate.
Yeah, the woman that you ate.
And the problem is as well, they're shameless about telling you how many men they can get or how many dates they've been on, as if to sort of say, you know, this is what you're competing with. And I don't think they realise when they say things like that, you think, okay, well, you know, I'm not fucking interested now. Yeah. You're basically telling me that you're, you know, you're on date after date, and you know, I've had women even say, you know, well, I've only slept with a couple of them, and I just think, oh, fucking hell, you know, you could double that.
I don't know.
You could double that. So
Maybe
can't
maybe some men think once this woman's with him, she'll be loyal. I think, you know, some men might be that deluded in thinking so. I mean, guys, if you're thinking that, just remember everything they used to say about men actually applies to women. So
Right.
when they say that once a cheater, always a cheater, believe me, if she's a player, she's
Right.
going to play once she's with you.
Well, they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
see any wrong in that either. They don't see any wrong in hedging their bets and having, you know, 3 or 4 just there in the wings, just, you know, until they've made their mind up. And they play all the men off.
Right. Yeah.
Women are better players than men.
Yeah, we talk about sexual cryptis in here, and what sexual cryptis is she wants the community to be the daddy. She wants all the guys in the community to think they're the daddy. So all the guys, she collects resources from all the community, not just the beta provider.
It's funny you mentioned Black Ram. I think Black Ram and a couple of the other guys, they did a really good, you know, very eye-opening video about how women are so promiscuous, and I think some men, they just don't care, do they? I mean, they think it doesn't matter. You know, they'll go into that hole where many other men have been. You know, those kiss those lips that have been on the cocks of so you know, let's face it, so many other men, they'll kiss
Who was
that.
it? Mangina of the Year. Remember that one?
What?
On RGE's channel, Mangina of the Year Awards.
Oh yeah, that guy. Who won it?
Simping, the Chinese kid that was simping.
No, it was that guy.
Matt Bender.
Yeah, that's it. Matt Binder.
Matt Bender won the Mangina of the Year.
Matt
Was that the
Binder.
kid who took his girlfriend back after she? There was proof of her sucking off a fucking God knows how many men.
Oh yeah, it was a tie, wasn't it, between him and Matt Bender, and then they had to take a breakdown tie on that, another vote.
Yeah, I'm still thinking it was that a black guy with the mustache. What's his name? Stephen. You know you know, Oprah Winfrey's friend. Can't remember that guy's name. Oh, he's a mangina and a half.
Yeah. Oh god.
I can't remember his name. Steven something.
Oh, is that the YouTube video maker, Steve Hookah?
No. He's that presenter. You know, that black presenter. He's quite chubby. He's always wearing a suit. He always looks like he's got a couple of plums in his mouth. He's got this big mustache.
Oh god, there's so many manginas and white knights and simps out there. As you see, RGE's got to do a biannual Mangina of the Year award because there's too many of them.
Yeah, there's too many of them, but yeah, I mean that's what Black Ram and I forget the other guy. That's what they were saying. That, you know, men they need to be a bit more selective in where they stick their knob, because come on guys, I mean, let's face it, you love your knob, you value it. It's like one of your most precious belongings. You don't want just
it's not like a finger. It's not like a finger, you know. That's what I say to people. There's only one cock. You can lose a finger, but
You can lose a finger.
no, there's only one.
Let's be a bit more selective, guys. You know, stop giving it away for free. Yeah, but that's the problem. And then women, they think, oh, I've got my choice. You know, if I don't like you, if you don't treat me right, or even if I just get bored of you, I'll just move on to this other mangina, and he'll give me what I want. But I think slowly, I think things are changing. Though I think a lot of men, they are beginning to cotton on. I think some guys, I don't know what it's. Maybe it's a type of evolution where when gynocentrism and misandry is absolute, you know, men begin to detach themselves or develop a lesser libido. So and I think that, you know, there are more women than men, even though it might be a slight margin, and also the increase of homosexuality as well. So there'll be so that's 2 less men now that are taken out of the women's choices. Obviously, the more men that are gay, the less men that there will be for women. So
I don't think there's not enough awareness for men. You know, there's still men who just, their brains are in their dick, and you know, in the real world, Mgtow is so small, such a small percentage. You know, the reality is men are still acting the way they've always done, and they will do anything to get their dick wet. And that is the real world. You know, there are still young men out there shagging these women, bringing up other people's kids. It's just the way it is. There's not enough awareness.
There's not enough awareness. But I think slowly when what we call critical mass, when there's just way too many single mothers, when there's just way too many single men, and for example Japan, they've reached critical mass. I reckon they have reached critical mass, and now as a society, as a country, they're declining. Their population is in decline. There's now more senior citizens than there are babies, and they say within the next few years, within this generation, we're not going to have enough men to run the country. And do you know what? That's a testament to men, because there's plenty of women to run the country, plenty of women there to do the job. If you want, a woman to take that position, they're there, and these are educated, trained women here. But the government is still saying we don't have enough people, but they're still afraid to say we don't have enough men.
Yeah, that's what they're afraid to say. We don't have the quality men that we need, and the quality men. And we don't. What they're saying is they don't know how to get them back into society by just making a few simple rules and changing the family courts and giving men custody and making it more worthwhile for them around. And pretty much, to a point, all this. A slut is a slut. Let's just say it. Nobody wants to be with her. Just saying that out loud and not do all this lean in for the slut thing. That's damaging.
Yeah, I think that's just how human nature is, though, isn't it? I mean, a young man is going to want to get his rocks off. A woman, she's going to be hypergamous. It's going to be like that for a while, but
yeah.
I don't know. As soon as critical mass happens in the West, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because Japan's solution is to open up immigration, because at the moment Japan doesn't allow any immigration. No immigrants allowed in Japan, except on very, very exclusive, elitist, very tight, stringent procedures. But in the West, I mean, we already have pretty much open immigration, so they're not going to have that solution. But it's going to be interesting to see. I wonder what will be the case, though. I mean, I think the thing about Japan is what's happening in Japan is women are beginning to adapt to the lack of sex as well.
Yeah, they're going.
No legislation brought in. That's the thing. There's no sense of urgency about it. The fact that there are so many single mums in England and in the US that are a drain on the economy, that's never addressed.
No.
And it's almost like it's got to be left to play itself out. No one's actually going to foresee.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to say that. The politicians aren't allowed to say that, because as soon as they do say it, they're not going to get voted in. I guess it's up to us to say it, but when we look to them in the politics of businesses and corporations like YouTube and everything, the politicians are supporting the censorship of what we're saying when they're not allowed to say it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy.
Because I don't know. I do think Japan is in decline as a country. I mean, it was one of the most strongest powers in the East, in the Far East, and now it's nothing more than America's little pet. And now it's not even going to be that. Very soon, it's not even going to be a viable support for America. I think it's going to be. I don't know. I'm afraid to think.
We got to open immigration to America for Mgtows or.
Could you imagine Mgtows flying over to?
Yeah, come on over here, guys. Let's just because it's going to be better for society if we have just millions more of Mgtows. Yeah. Yeah, let them immigrate the other people in and whatever they want to do. That won't help the country. But all those MGTOWs that want to leave, come to America.
I don't know. I don't know. Because this kind of centrism is spread all over the world, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the channels have been saying it's mainly due to the lack of war. You know, the lack of war, and at peacetime, gynocentrism is the norm, and at wartime,
Yeah. Now we hear
patriarchy
that.
is the norm.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. That the pruning the herd. You know, we look at war as pruning the herd for men and knocking down the male population. But that never worked, and it never really
Yeah,
worked. What we
I
have to
don't.
do is knock down the female population. Uh,
Yeah.
well, I can look at three countries. I did a video on this too. I can look at three countries: Kyrgyzstan. I can look at the the Arab Emirates, and another country close by there, and see that the population of men is at 54 to 58%, and those countries look like they look like castles compared to other countries. There's just huge buildings. The infrastructure is better. Everybody seems to be a little bit
Mm,
happier.
mm.
Uh,
And that's the
but
point. You know, that's why I disagree with this theory that war. You know, we need wars
no, we
to
don't
to
anymore.
to increase male scarcity. Because if you look at the Middle East, if you look at other countries where there's still the patriarchy,
Hmm.
but there's been no like big wars, or there's no like male scarcity. It's, you know, it sort of defunks the theory, I think.
Yeah, it defunks the theory. They do better. Men start doing what they're naturally, programmed to do, and that's just go out, build something, be happy, and your society will project that. And the streets will be fixed, the infrastructure is fixed. All that happens naturally.
Mm.
But we're doing it actually wrong. There's 54% of women over here, and none of them can actually do anything. Now we got Mgtow dropping out, and bring it on. Let's force this thing. Show me that go girl attitude. Go build a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyway, Nico, Stardust, and CS, they had a hangout, and Simon didn't turn up. So what
Yep,
happened?
yep. I'd seen that. Yeah, Sandman didn't turn up. I thought that was a good opportunity. Well, that was sort of a bait, wasn't it?
You think? You
It
think?
was.
Yeah, but Simon would have been outnumbered because they, you know,
Yeah,
CS and Nico,
right.
you know,
Because Stardust.
they're fanboys. Let's say it.
Yeah, Stardust was in the thread just waiting to come in. So they were waiting for Sandman to come in, and I think he played it well
Yeah.
to come in, and then Stardust was going to jump in, and he would have got beat up. That's not fair.
Yeah, it would have been outnumbered 3-1. So Nico, you need to make it a bit more fair for the
Yeah,
opposition if you're going to do that.
right.
I
They
think
need a moderator
here,
like you, Steining, where there's just two of them, and a moderator like Shining.
yeah,
Say that again, Messenger.
they want to hear the conversation between Stardust and Sandman. That's
Yeah.
what they want to hear. They want to get it all out on the table, air your grievances, say what you got to say, fling some shit at each other, and when you're done, you're done. Draw a fucking line in the sand, and that is it. You're done.
And normally that works. You know, once you've got some shit flinging under the belt, there's no going back after that, and things are normally settled down. And I think that's basically what it is. You know, the two of them, and
There's
it
a
works.
there's a term that's been coined, and it's hero worship,
Right.
and it is not free thinking. It is idolizing. It is hero worshipping. It is blindly defending people who are perfectly capable of defending themselves. Let them defend themselves. Don't try and win approval or show your loyalty by defending someone just
Hmm.
because you've got a newfound respect for them.
Yeah.
People are actually losing respect for people because they are immediately jumping to the defense of people, and it's not. It's hard to say what it's not without shaming people.
Well, I
But
mean,
men speak for themselves, men think for themselves, and if a man chooses to have a conflict, a verbal conflict with another man, he does that off his own back,
Right.
and you make him look like less of a man by saying, oh, we'll speak for you, we'll back you up.
Right. It's the
You know,
fanboys that are.
yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with supporting your friend. There's nothing wrong with having channels you prefer above others. But you know when you're hero worshipping when your hero, whenever they say something right, it's like you jump on it and you emphasize that point. But whenever they say something wrong, and they in fact even say something against your own beliefs, you're quiet, and you might even agree with it. You know, you agree with it on the surface, but inside your heart, you actually disagree with it, and that's when you know it's turned into hero worship.
Disagreements are truthful.
No,
I mean,
no.
nobody thinks the same, and if you disagree, then you've put your point across, and you'll meet somewhere in the middle. You know, your opinion varies so greatly from theirs. That's just a fact of life. And when you speak about it, they'll take on board some of what you're saying. You might take on board some of what they're saying, and you're both older and wiser for the experience. But to just blindly back people up and attack on the strength of loyalty.
Right. Yeah. Now look at this thing in a marketing sense. Sandman's a good marketer. Now, Stardust also is a good marketer. You got two of the big boys fighting. It doesn't hurt either channel because you got one guys from this channel going over to this channel for views, and then they're going back and forth. So it's a little bit contrived, isn't it? To keep
I said that to Warhorse. You know, I was speaking to Warhorse last night, and I said, "What if these guys don't want it to stop?" I mean,
they don't want it to stop because
I mean,
they're sharing viewers. Then
it's a fantastic drama that's going. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know. I mean, I didn't even really know it was going on, and I sort of like dropped these two channels as in my interest. You know, they went off my radar until this drama raised its head. And the thing is, it's a fact. I mean, if you can raise take for example boxing, when they hype up a big fight like the McGregor and the Aldo fight.
Yeah.
That hype was so much more bigger than the actual fight itself. In fact, the actual fight didn't even take place. You know, Aldo and McGregor ended up not fighting. Chad Mendes pulled in. But the fact was, the media hype and the build-up was to such an extent that they realised that this was more important than the actual fight itself. I mean, who cares if the fight lasts 10 seconds? You know, as soon as the two guys step out into the octagon, one strike and it's over. Or it could have been rubbish, like a lot of times when these overhyped fights do take place. The fight is rubbish. It's so boring. Like, and you know, there's these like big heavyweights. They spend like 25 minutes lying on top of each other with legs spread open, and that's supposed to be a good fight. I mean, come on, guys. These like decisions, these are rubbish. Anyone that watches MMA will know what I'm talking about. But I mean, with Sandman and Stardust, I mean, right now it's all big hype. You know, everyone's getting his hype. Oh, you know, Sandman's got his beef with Stardust. Who's getting the subscriber counts? Who's getting the view counts? You know, and then you get guys that are joining in. I mean, I'm of the school of thought that I think, you know, if you want to make a video about it, you've got every right to. And, you know, I'll probably watch it as well because everybody loves a good fight, and this is a very entertaining aspect, I would say. So, like I said, what if the two of them they like you say, you know, I'm glad you said it. I didn't say it, guys. Joe said it. He said it's contrived.
It's contrived, yeah. I'm not afraid of nothing. The best thing I can do for my channel would be go pick a fight with one of the big guys.
Yeah. I'm picking on you, Sag, on you cunt.
Yeah, because
you racist Islamic cunt, Islamophobic cunt.
Yeah, because but it's about Mgtow. It's about Mgtow ethics with me. I don't care that much. I just want to get the word out, and I know they get the word out to more people, or it seems like they get the word out to more people. But it's more about the pure Mgtow ethics about it. We don't do these things in Mgtow. Mgtow is not a marketing platform, and I did want to talk to you off air for a few minutes.
Okay, let's go off air then. let's put everyone watching on a cliffhanger. Let's go off air, and we'll carry on.
Yeah,
I dare you to do it.
There's just proper ways to do things, and I don't really care if you think I'm being, this way or that way. I'm just saying the truth, and I think it's rather contrived of them. And
My
the,
problem is it takes the focus away from the real
the
issues.
real issues, right? The things we talk about
Right.
here. Uh,
Yeah.
because we're talking about this. This is who succeeded. The social justice warriors succeed because we're talking about some silly ass argument between two grown men instead of talking about men.
Yeah, so long as it doesn't continue on too long,
Yeah,
obviously, I don't mind. You guys have probably already said how I feel about it, but as long as it doesn't go on and on. But I saw, and a big shout out to my brother, no, out there, if you're listening, bro.
Yeah.
He made a video, I think 13 months ago. I think it was April 2014. Stardust versus Sandman. There needs to be Mgtow discussion, and it's been going on for this long. So guys have been talking about this conflict for so long. But I mean, personally, I actually prefer the middle-sized channels. Like No Holds Barred, like Messengers. Some of the new guys, come on some fun. I just mentioned No. There's some great channels out there, and I actually prefer to watch these channels over both Sandman and Stardust channel. I
yeah.
think
Some of the
they've
guys are
done.
making great stuff.
Yeah, I mean we've got Mgtow there with
Yeah,
some
yeah,
excellent.
we got to promote I Mgtow is going to go with his what's it, Star Wreck series?
Yeah, I can't wait for
Yeah,
that. And not forgetting the Canadian Mgtow. We forgot about that guy. That guy is still
yeah.
making videos.
He's still
Check out his
making
channel.
great stuff. There's a lot of good guys out there that are making really deep. If you're looking for the deep intellectual stuff, man, you can find that a lot. Go listen to Turd Fling on Monkey or Dark Knight if you want deep intellectual stuff
Yeah.
too.
Old Man That Night, TFM. TFM's
Yeah,
already got the recognition, of course.
yeah. TFM grew tremendously
He's
because
got the recognition. He doesn't need us to help his channel. He
yeah,
should be helping our channel out. Yeah, come on, TFM, could you give us a shout out? Your brothers are drowning down here
yeah.
without
I love
10,
that
20
guy. I love
subs.
it. Marcus, man, I looked at Marcus's views the other day.
Yeah.
Marcus, oh man, that's somebody that every MGTOW should go listen to. But I don't see him getting the views. I don't see him getting the support. Why we have these two big guys fighting over bullshit, and just detracting from the MGTOW message.
Yeah. It's a thing, isn't it? We have a right mixed bag of men, but I think it's good. It makes it interesting, makes it exciting, and it's always going to be like this, isn't it? I mean, when you have like a
Yeah,
world group of.
it's the entertainment factor.
Yeah, but we need it all, don't we? I mean, we need the serious stuff. We need the guys that are gonna be a lot more light-hearted, and we need the. Well, I think a little bit of drama it's not going to hurt now and again.
Oh,
Yeah.
did anyone speak about the mayor yet? It's probably been overshadowed by
Oh yeah.
Stardust and Sandman.
Right. It's been overshadowed.
Unforgivable. How can you overshadow the mayor? That's
Yeah.
disgraceful.
I love the mayor and I love what he's doing and everything, but I have some serious doubts about doing it the right way. And we talked about this the other day, and I kind of got drowned out on that. And my opinion was start a 501c, be accountable for the money, put it in a thing, get a board of MGTOWs to watch it, and do it like men do it. And he disappeared for 2 days, and everybody in the back of everybody's mind, they were freaking out, going, "Uh-oh, we got another WBB here."
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, some guys might be thinking, "Oh, I don't know. I donated hundreds of dollars in there, or
and now it's gone.
Do you know the way I think? I think if Mgtow can't function as a group that can have a gentleman's agreement. I mean, you can't do that in business now. You can't do business on a handshake. No. You can't do business on trust.
That's what we're doing right now. We're doing it on a handshake.
We should be able to, though.
We should be able to.
We should be able to. I think if we can do that, then we've got the moral high ground. Where we can sort of say we know who to trust, and we do trust them implicitly, and they've never let us down. And Mayor's proven time and time again that he's never let us down. He's always followed through with words with actions. So I never lost faith in the mayor. And immediately I posted my video. Some idiot, I won't say his name because he's not worth mentioning, said the mayor's a con man and he's fucked off with all the money.
Yeah.
Immediately,
that was the natural response for a lot of guys.
I didn't read that. I didn't read it, honestly. It's only you guys just told me now that I've realised how bad it looked.
I deleted his comment and just blocked him because I thought, what we're trying to do here is get the mayor back on his feet and and reassure everyone that the mayor is the man he's always said he's been. He's just had his channel deleted, which could happen to anyone, could happen to me, because I use a lot of third-party content, which I'm sure iTunes makes a fucking fortune from in advertising and clicks or whatever. So, but yeah, his channel got taken down. It wasn't intentional. It just happened.
I don't think it was intentional. And I love the mayor of Mgtow, but my point is, men do things differently because we are men. And we do accountability and responsibility very well, and there's certain things we do that could help this community. If we did start the 501c, it would make a board, and then there would be 6 Mgtows or 7 Mgtows or 10 Mgtows there to make decisions, and that makes us act as a group. Then, and
there you go, Mayor. If you're out there, Mayor, 501c.
It's $385. That's take $385 of that money and do it the right way. And that leaves telephone numbers. No one had a telephone number either. If there was a group that acted in a business sense, there would be telephone numbers. You can call, say, hey, you got your channel taken down. It wouldn't be such a big deal. We'll work on getting you a channel back up. Go buy a cell phone from the dollar store, load it for a month, and start a new channel with that cell phone. It's just common sense, and it grows us into what we could. Everybody says we're not a reparable force when it comes down to politics. You know what that does? If we had the right business at it, it grows us into being a reparable force, with money to throw around, with weight to push around. But if we never do that, that's the best thing for the government, because they never have an adversary that could actually make any difference.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, I suppose, because a year ago it was just about making videos and making men aware, and bashing women and saying, well, wow, I can actually get away with saying openly what I think about the establishment, what I think about women, what I think about the way men are treated. Now we're past that point where we think, okay, that's a never-ending loop.
That's a never-ending loop.
What are we going to do about it? Well, not that we're going to fight the powers, or we're going to lobby Parliament or try and change legislation that's already been done and failed.
Right. So, yeah. Imagine if a political person comes around like Mike Buchanan, and he was in a position where Mgtow had money to donate to his campaign.
Yeah, and maybe try and get him into a seat in Parliament.
We would make a real difference then. That's what I've been saying. But to donate that money, you just can't give it to him out of the mayor of Mgtow's bank account. It's got to come from a political group that has might behind them, and that's where the whole now these Mgtows are serious comes in, and we're not just a bunch of guys whining about pussy online.
But Mayor's little donation thing, I think, is it Patreon or one of those things, or? Yeah,
it's just a bank account. I donated $15 the other day to it for my swear.
I think he said for every $100, I think the website keeps is it $20 or $30?
Right. Now I was also thinking about this with that. They keep $20 and $30 now. You know what that looks like in his bank account? That looks like he made money to the IRS. He's got to pay taxes on that without the 501c.
Yeah, you see, I think but that's quite a big loss. I mean, losing like a fifth of your donations.
Yeah. Now Uncle Sam wants 30% of that now because he doesn't.
So then that totals half. Half the donations are gone.
if he doesn't do this eventually, Uncle Sam's gonna. And if you think you're gonna get away with it, not in this country. You know, the IRS is the most powerful force in the world. I think they're coming to get their money.
Hmm.
So you know, there's by simply having a nonprofit opened, you don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay taxes to the state if he buys those things. Now, what he's doing is he's buying these things for, you know, maybe six. He's spending $100 here, $100 there. Guess what he has to pay? State taxes. So we're feeding the system by not doing it the right way.
Yeah, I think it started out as an idea. Let's see what we can do. Let's try and
Yeah.
make a difference. And also the premise behind it was, when the media comes to attack Mgtow,
We have
say to them, you know, we look after the homeless, we help the homeless, we're a charitable group, we're philanthropists. You know, we've got this defense as if to say, you know, why are you attacking a group of men that help the homeless? You know.
But you know what the media will say? If it ever comes down to that, they'll say, no, he's not a charitable institution. Where show me? He's just a guy collecting money on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to say. He's nothing, and that's not a real institution.
Yeah. I'm
So,
sure the mayor can see that, and that makes sense to him. You know, if it's been put forward, then
I'm not dissing. I want everybody to. I'm not dissing the mayor. I love the mayor. I think he's the greatest, one of the greatest guys. But I see things differently in a very business-like sense.
yeah,
Because there's reasons for it, and good reasons.
yeah.
So you know, yeah. I'm going to change the subject now that I went off.
Well, no, I think that's a good point, because if it moves on from what it is, which was just, you know, let's throw money at a problem, and it's good for morale to see homeless men being helped. If we move it on from that point to a more business-like point where it holds more weight and is more credible, then people will start to say, now we're really making ground. You know, now in this short space of time, we've actually achieved something, and we've got something tangible now.
Right. Now look at it this way. The mayor says, okay, let's do a sign. We got signs. People want to put up signs in Mgtow. You buy 1,000 signs in bulk. You don't have to pay taxes on that, because you've got the business set up. You're not paying taxes on. You get 1,000 signs. You send them out, 10 to each one of us, and then we can take pictures. Here's a Mgtow sign in my neighborhood, Ohio. Here's a Mgtow in Britain. Here's a Mgtow. That has more of an influence, and we saturate the internet with those pictures. You know, stuff like that you can do now because you're a group, and it gives a center base. Like, oh God, if we ever get like 100,000, this thing's going. There's $10,000 in there now, but it's going to be $100,000 soon. Barbarossa wants to write his book. He could have donated that $30,000 to Barbarossa to write his book, because that's something we could have done. You know, the group says, yes, this is a good idea. Let's get a book out there. Let's get a bunch of writers together, pay them for their time, and we should be making something for our time around here. Our time's important, but we all donate for free, and that's good. It's a good thing to give back what's been given to you freely, but at a certain point, I want to see guys make a career out of this, like the F word people do, you know. And I'm not putting another buck in the jar today.
You know, but they became well, obviously they're women.
Yeah, they're busybodies. That's what they do. They work. They're little worker bees on paper pushing.
Yeah, but the money became more important than any of the sort of flimsy issues they were talking about. I mean, we've got real issues. You know, I think Universal's about to do an interesting video on the fact that Mgtow is nothing like the F word.
Yeah. Now, look at if we do it the right way, and there's a guy going through, he can't afford a lawyer. Hey, we can go get him the best lawyer and try to push our message into the courts that way.
Yeah.
and see if it floats. You know, how are we going to know if Mgtow ideology ever floats in the court system if we don't have a lawyer someday to push our ideology into the court system?
Yeah. Yeah. And then become a credible force to deal with. You know,
Right.
where people sort of say, "Oh, hang on a minute. Do you know Mgtow are involved in this?" And they think, well, "Okay, you
Ooh,
know."
yeah, let's back off because we don't want, a million, 2 million guys coming after us right now. 2 million men, that's a scary thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to harp on the subject too long or get anybody pissed off at me about it. But
No, it makes sense, and it's a logical next step.
it's a
Uh,
logical next step. Yeah, it gives us something, some direction. If you got that rage and you want to work I'm not going out to put food in a bag for homeless guys where nothing is going to get done and some other woman is making money off of that. Eventually, in the gynocentric system, I want to go out and put food in a bag for Mgtow and hand it out to guys, and I know Mgtows are doing a good job, and Mgtows are making the money, and the money's not leaking from our pockets anymore. Because if we deal with their system, then we're just a utility again. And I don't want to be a utility for the gynocentric. I want to be a utility for Mgtow.
yeah.
Yeah, use the fuck out of me. I don't care. Rape me. But I don't. I just don't want them doing it to me.
We did speak about big charities before as well, you know, where we sort of said, you know, why don't we all just donate to a homeless charity? And
Right.
a lot of us have dealt with charities before. My company used to donate
You know them
thousands
are.
of pounds to charity.
Yeah.
You're funding all the administration.
Right.
They're all
It's 90%. Yeah, it's 90% women.
yeah, yeah. They just sit around all day eating fucking paninis and drinking coffee, and you know they
Talking
go
about.
home and
Yeah.
yeah, I work. I work for a charity. They claim all the credit for themselves.
Yeah.
They've got these inflated wages and fucking reduced hours, easy jobs, and the charity just becomes
A
an
joke.
organisation. Yeah, it is a joke, and very little of it filters down to the people who actually need it. So
Right. Yeah. Now I can see this thing happening different in MGTOW that most of the money makes it to the homeless guys. Eventually, man, we can build buildings. House these guys, feed these guys, get them back on track, get them back working, get them back. Give them some red pills philosophy, and those are the guys will go out they'll go out and they'll be true MGTOW soldiers.
yeah. Yeah, they come in, they get fixed, they get reprogrammed, they go back out into the world, you know, more capable and
Yeah, just
less reliable
happier.
themselves. Yeah,
Yeah, boy, that would be a great video, wouldn't it? Show Mickey, he came off the street, MGTOW helped him out, gave him a home, gave him some food, reprogrammed him, showed him how to think better about things and not be that broken male. And then he's out doing good work and he looks better and he's happier and he's talking better and he's not drinking and you know,
yeah.
he's not drinking himself to death anymore. I don't care if you guys drink, just don't drink yourself to death.
But it's a realistic proposition within. I mean, look how far MGTOW's come in terms of numbers.
Right? Yeah.
So in 2 to 3 years, that's a realistic proposition. We've done something. I mean, credit to the mayor. The mayor
Yeah.
has done this, and we've shown that we can
do it.
we can do something. You know. So yeah, in time. I think, and we can't sort of put it off and say, oh, maybe in 5 years, 10 years time. You know, it's achievable.
Yeah, we always see those sports teams that are thinking into the future 5 years and they never succeed.
Yeah.
It's the sports team that goes and gets the guys and does the work that always succeeds.
Yeah.
Let's push it forward like men and do this like men, not like a bunch of women that are just they don't do the work. We do the work. We're the men. We need to act like men, and let's push this thing forward. I hope it works out, and I was thinking about starting a 501 myself. I have all the paperwork already done because I used to run one. So, if he wants to attach to that, he can attach to it. It's easily done. If he wants to, if you want to start another project, let's start. What other men's issues are there besides homelessness?
Oh God. Well, like you say, the need for support in terms of legal fees.
Yeah, legal fees. We could do that. We can get a lawyer to work for Mgtow to start put. That would be a great thing to do. Get a lawyer, one guy, or just working dedicated in his life, working on changing things.
Yeah, he could make a big difference. Just one man, like you say, full
Right,
time.
full time. Who's paying him? Yeah, Mgtow's paying him.
Yeah,
So what? So what? Is as long as I guarantee the BBC would pick that up and want to talk to him.
yeah,
Yeah, he's pissing in the pool. Everybody would want to talk to him.
yeah. And I suppose like some kind of support package for men who've become who've lost their home, on the streets.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. And let's. Yeah. We see a lot of scientists coming out of Mgtow, and a lot of the kids are choosing science. And we push that thing through, and a lot of kids are choosing social engineering and that sort of stuff. But what we don't see in Mgtow right now is a lot of lawyers.
but Turkman's just made a good comment actually. The emotional and mental support, because
Yeah.
we know that within, especially in the national health system, I don't know what the health care is like in the US, but men don't get the emotional support they need. They're just
Yeah.
told to, wait for their medication,
Yeah.
and the counselling men need isn't specific to the issues men face. So I know Tom was on earlier, and Tom,
Right. Yeah. What if you
he
had guys like Tom around, and you had a place where there was just out in the country, where men can go and regain that manliness and get a little touch, have someone to talk to. Uh, that's a
Well,
great
he
thing.
did say he worked in a female-dominated
Right.
practice, and he realised that none of the women had a clue how to deal with the men, and he was just basically um, assigned all the male cases. So that's how he learned his craft. He constantly dealt with male-specific problems and realised that the tools he'd been given to give people therapy, psychotherapy, weren't adequate. They weren't geared
No, they
towards
weren't
male
adequate.
specific.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we could fund, let's say, one lawyer, one psychotherapist who
Yeah.
deals specifically with men and their issues, again, that's
That's a huge step forward.
yeah,
If the 501 can have property, you can have somewhere to go by a fishing lake, a stream. You know how important that is for men too, right? Uh, Getting out into the wilderness, uh, being with men. We should be doing stuff like that. Come around, group together. What do they call those little camps they go to for business camps to bind them together, where they learn how to crawl over the rope and you know
oh, yeah, they're like team building
team
exercises, aren't
building exercises. Yeah, something like that, where we build teams here, and we
they?
have
But that's one thing Tom said about a crucial part of therapy is just to get men to speak to each other again,
yeah.
men to take up activities like archery,
Right.
anything where he can just get back to being a man.
Right, yeah, these things will come out very natural. I'm sure there's probably, I have very little room here, but someday in my life I wanted to move farther out to the country where, men could come around and just, hey, go over Traversables, and he's got a few, he's got a bed there. You can go shoot something in the woods. You can go fishing by the lake, stuff like that. That's going to come around here in Mgtow. We're developing wealth now from
Yeah.
being Mgtow. Uh, what are we going to do with that wealth in the future?
Well, that would be the ideal circumstance. That would be the ideal situation, wouldn't it? If we had like a local group where you'd know I mean, the term emotional and mental
Yeah.
support. I don't think the government, I don't think the National Health Service would know how to deal with that. I think
No, they
really,
don't.
Mgtow, the Manosphere, the MRA are well ahead of the government when it comes to
Oh,
men's
heck
health.
yeah.
The government actually label a man broken because they don't know how to deal with him, and they just say pills or section him. You know,
Yeah.
that one's he's malfunctioning now,
Mm.
so section him. And that's what they do. They did it to me. They've done it to others, where they see that you've reached a crisis point because you've just been through so much shit, and you go and say to them, look, this is the state I'm in, and they can see the physical effects. They can see tremors. They can see your speech is slowed, and that's they look for those sort of things. And basically, what they do, because they must be well aware of the suicide stats, they say this man is a danger to himself.
Yeah.
We've got a duty of care to him. If we let him go home now and he tops himself, and they see that he's been to see a GP. And nothing was done. So what they do, they say, sign the consent form, you're going in. And they put you in the local fucking asylum and section you under the Mental Health Act.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so many of my friends have had it. They tried to do it to me.
Right.
And that's what they say. They just label you broken. You're broken, put him in the loony bin.
Yeah, I have a big problems with the way they do that, because what they're doing is removing him from society, where he can't, he's bucking anyways, but what they're doing is they're just reciprocating their system. And like we said, back to the system where there's 90% nurses and 90% women administrators and 90% gynocentrism, and then they're trying to remold him in a gynocentric form that just says man up.
Yeah, but they take you. I mean, I argued. They locked me in a room for a good 3 hours trying to get me to sign this form. They kept coming in and out and in and out.
Yeah.
And I just said to them, if you section me now and put me there, I can't look after my daughter.
Right, I can't go to work. I can't do. Yeah, I can't do
pay
anything.
bills. I'm going to come out, and my life will be gone. So you're not actually helping me. You're increasing my problems.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is how it worked. They kept coming in. They kept saying sign the form, and I kept saying no. They would go out and lock the door, so I was locked in a room. I tried the window. I couldn't get out the window. And then the last time they went out of the door, because the building had been locked and was now shut, they left the internal door unlocked, thinking, okay, well, he can get out of this room, but he can't go anywhere. So I thought, well, fuck me, they didn't lock that door that time. So I got out of the room, went to the automatic doors, which didn't open because the building was now closed. So effectively, they'd imprisoned me and said,
Right.
you're not going anywhere. I actually had my daughter that evening, and this was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought, well, I'm not going to be there for my little girl. She's getting dropped off at 6. So I saw a cleaner, and I said to the cleaner, I said, I've just delivered a package, and they've locked the doors while I was just getting a signature. I said, how can I get out? And they said, there's a fire escape there. And I went out the fire escape, and I went down the road, and they came out of the building. They came out of the
Chased
building,
you.
chased me
like Benny Hill.
And you joke about it, but it was 2 men in white coats chased me down the street, and I went immediately home. And when I got home, the police turned up.
Wow.
And the police were trying it, and he came in and he said, right, I can't section you in your own home. This was what he was saying on the radio. I can't section him in his own home. I didn't know that, and luckily he couldn't. And when he sat down, I said, look, there's just been a lot going on. I'm just a little bit, overwhelmed, but the worst thing you could do now is take me away. I won't be able to look after anybody or earn any money or do anything. But that's what they wanted to do.
That's what they
wanted to label me as broken and just throw me away. And, of course, everything would have carried on. The world would have carried on, and I'd just be another man who.
Wow, that's really sad. Well, there you go, guys. If ever you're in that situation, don't give up. If ever the police or the so-called professionals are trying to bully you and harass you and harangue you into doing something that you know is wrong, stick to your guns. Right? I mean, it's going to come around. I mean, they're going to get you to sign something which you don't want. They're going to get you to agree to something which you know is going to be wrong.
Yes,
and
they are. They use
stick to your guns, guys.
Every tool they got, they'll use against you. Okay, it's about 2 o'clock. This thing's going to wrap up here. Do you guys want to... I wanted to talk about something off the air and keep these guys in suspense. It's groundbreaking.
Don't worry, guys. Just come to me afterwards and I'll talk with you.
Okay.
That really big announcement that is just going to overshadow Stardust, Sandman, the Mayor, all of it.
Okay.
Stay tuned for next week's edition.
Guys, we'll never know who's going to show up, and it was nice to have Tom on, and he's always invited back.
Yeah, Tom. If you're listening, you left kind of early. I'm sort of feel offended. I sort of feel like I chased you away. Maybe something I said.
He did say he had an hour, and I turned up late. I was late, unfortunately.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that because now he could feel guilty. We could like shame him into coming back.
Yeah, we put him out on an island there, and it was probably a little uncomfortable. And I know how uncomfortable it is the first time you do something around a new group of men. But if he comes around more, it'll get a lot more comfortable, and we can.
Oh, I think if he sees your past podcast, I think when he sees some of our channels, I think he'll realise that we're all on the same page with this guy.
Yeah.
He's he listens intently. You know, that's one thing I noticed. Whatever you say, I think Tom is possibly the type of man to try and process all the information you're giving him, so he can give you an answer that you know that you can go away and make use of.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to the beginning of the podcast a few times. I mean, it sounds like you guys had some real serious discussions going on. Some stuff that I was hearing for the first time. Just go show you just don't stop learning in the Mgtow sphere. If you know where to look and you just keep your ears open for long enough and keep an open mind, just keep learning.
Just keep learning. Yeah, do we want to give anybody else plugs? Obviously go to Tom's channel and subscribe. Anybody else out there that's new in the Manosphere?
There was a few guys, but I forget their names.
I forget their names too.
I forget their names. I found a couple of new channels this week, but for some reason, you see, this is the thing, guys. You know, get involved. You know, talk to each other, comment on each other's videos. You know, reach out to each other because this is how we connect. You know, there's no point you opening a channel and just keeping to yourself and expecting people to come to you. You know, reach out to each other. I mean, there was a really nice guy. His name was PBZ Good. I just found him, and Nico found him. He was really good, and then he closed his channel. It was a TFL. It was a TFL Mgtow.
He got attacked by that guy with 6,000 subs who only gets 37 views.
Exactly, but the thing is, if I think more of us, because I actually replied to him. I white knighted the guy. I went to his defense. But if he was a bit more, if more Mgtow knew about it, I think more of them would have stood up and just said, "Hey, listen, this is not on. You can't shame this guy. You know, he's Mgtow. He's one of us." And that was quite sad. And then he closed his channel down.
Yeah, no, another Mgtow, and are you all doing voices for him too?
I don't mind. Mgtow. I said to you time ago, you know, anything you want from me, anything you want from us, just let us know.
Okay, yeah, I say Messenger. You doing a voice for him?
That's top secret. No comment.
Okay.
No comment.
Okay. So he's got his stuff coming out, and look forward to that. It's going to be good stuff, and well worth the time put into it. And Mgtows, you take care. I'm going to stop the broadcast now.